Peace and blessings, family. This is your brother Asar Imhotep with the Madhu Indela Institute for the Advancement of Science and Culture. Today is Friday, September the 25th, and today's Devil's Advocate topic is everyone should join a cult. And who's with me? More to come in just a minute.
Slick as I can. Say what? Live from the seventh dimension via satellite. Say what? Flush for minds to taste. The mind is time, the mind is space. A horn rush, a bass flush for minds to taste. Smooth.
They messed around and played the wrong intro. But I don't care. It's Friday. And that's just going how we do it. Anyway, peace and blessings again. Thank you all for joining us live. On this Friday, y'all could be doing anything else in the world, but you chose to be here. So I am very appreciative of everyone, wanting to get into this dialogue. So y'all know that for the past few weeks, I've been having conversations about my experience as a Hebrew Israelite, in the early and mid 90s. And so if you, have not checked out those conversations, I highly recommend that you, go to the channel and catch those videos and pay attention to the comments. You'll see how crazy the Hebrews are in the comments. So it had how should I say? The comments helped to spawn this particular conversation in terms of what are the characteristics of people in a cult. And then, of course, my argument that I think everyone should join a cult. And so I know it is kind of counterintuitive, my particular argument. But throughout this conversation tonight, hopefully, people will understand more of my position. And so we have a few guests with us who's going to join us in just a little bit when I bring them in. But before I do that, of course, I like to give a shout out to everyone who has made themselves known in the, the chat rooms. And so please, peace to Marquise Kidd. Peace to Robert Rand, Sister Tamika One, Phi Light and Tist, Sonjedi, Ata and Zombie, Brother Chavez, Tep Haseb Ahau McCrae, Brian Beno Smith, Lamar Pope, and Mr. Morpheus and Safa Rabah Muhammad. Peace to all of you who have made yourselves known in the chat. Peace to Sister LaDasha Wright. And anybody else who is just listening, but don't want to make themselves known because y'all probably in the cult right now. And it's a sin for y'all to be in the chat room. And so just want to make that known. Peace to Mantaya X. If I'm saying that correctly, if I'm saying that incorrectly, I do apologize. So peace to you, and hope everyone is doing well. So before I move forward on the conversation, of course, some announcements. And so on tomorrow, I will be interviewing Dr. 𒁲𒈠𒃶𒈨𒂗, who is an elder and a scholar on the Baluba people and culture and language. And, you know, we'll be talking about the Baluba culture, religion, and philosophy on Sunday, but this will not be a live show. I will be recording it Sunday and uploading it Sunday for my Patreon members. So this is one of the benefits of being a Patreon member, that you get access to certain exclusive interviews before everyone else, you know, weeks and sometimes even months in advance. And some videos will just be for, you know, the Patreon members. So if you want to, you know, have access to these videos and other, you know, benefits or whatnot, I encourage you to join my Patreon. That is patreon.com/Asar Imhotep. And, you know, the funds used through Patreon will help in the initial fundraiser for the Chiena Into film. So this is one of the elders who I will be interviewing for the film. And because we'll be talking about the relationship between Bantu languages, cultures, religion, etc., and rituals, and that of ancient Egypt, you know, Kemet, for those who prefer that name. And, you know, it is time we do some real scholarship and documentary form, and one that is done right, you know, aesthetically, you know, sound-wise and the like. So, you know, your contributions will help in that arena. So once again, patreon.com/Asar Imhotep /Asar Imhotep. So without further ado, again, our topic is on the cults. And so y'all know what cult I belong to, which was the ICUPK, or the Black Hebrew Israelites. And so our guests are former members of the Nuwaupians, and so they will give their experiences. So I want y'all to welcome Brother Chuck Morgan, all the way out on the far west coast, and Brother Sonjedi Ankh-Ra in the place to be. Let me reduce these windows. Hopefully this will be better for everyone. Bam. Cool beans. Welcome, brothers. Welcome, brothers. How are y'all this evening?
Peace and blessings to you.
All right,
Brother Sonjedi.
All right, peace to you. Glad to be here. Glad to be here to share our experiences.
All right. We may have one more guest come in a little later. So if he pops up, we'll chime him in. But yeah, so, you know, the conversation today has to deal with cults. And, you know, many of us have, you know, been involved in various different religious cults, and have had some good and bad experiences. And so, you know, y'all heard my experience again with the Hebrew Israelites. And so I wanted to have a conversation with people who belong to other organizations that they believe, you know, saying was a cult. And so I guess before we even, you know, have the conversation about, you know, the Nuwaupians per se, how do each of y'all define a cult? Y'all can go in whatever order, whoever goes first.
Well, because you have so many different definitions of cults, and some people will go back to the etymology of a word as being a term that was in reference to worship and how it became obsolete and didn't pop back up until around the 19th century. Then some people use the general definition of a cult as having a charismatic leader that the followers give full reverence to without question, and some even willing to give their own lives in regards to this individual who has this magnificent presence that he's able to captivate his followers through a series of lies and having ulterior motives in the process. So then you have a cult center where you have a place where individuals, worshipers, they go and then perform whatever ritual, ceremonial, sacrifice, what have you. But there are different degrees or definitions of a cult or a cult center. But from my perspective, where I'm critical is centered upon cult in the modern term as being a group, a religious, usually a religious group, and then you have politics, like you have the Trump administration, you have that's a cult. And then I'm just basing it centered around that mindset. People who give full adoration to a charismatic character, and irregardless of anything else, true or false, they'll follow him to the end.
All right. You have anything to contribute, Sonjedi?
Yeah, so peace to Brother Chuck. So basically, you just described Christianity. Because when I was coming up, and I'm sure you may have come across this as well, that a cult is simply a group of people who come together for a common cause, and that's in the dictionary. Mm-hmm. So, in addition to, what you shared, it's as a self-defense mechanism. When I was coming up, in the Nuwaupian community in the 90s. So I started in the 90s, and our reverse argument is it's simply a group of people who come together for a common cause, which technically is right. But then we have that adage of you have a charismatic leader. Now, I don't personally think there's anything wrong with having a charismatic leader. It's what that leader teaches and promotes as mentality for the group. So, and the group, if the group cannot ask critical questions, and if you are threatened directly or indirectly, or have a preemptive threat just for asking questions or wondering, then that's the problem. Mm-hmm. So, we could call that a cult, if we will. I personally don't really, define the Nuwaupians or any others as a cult in my head, but I do understand. But the problem is when you ask questions, because that's what I did, and we were, and you notice we're trained to ask questions. It's not just an encouragement. We are trained. We have books, question and answers for every single other religion. Christianity, 360 questions. It was 360 questions or 365. 360 questions to ask a Christian, 360 questions to ask a Muslim, etc. We're trained, but we never had a book internal and 360 questions to ask ourselves. At least in the 90s. After that, I don't know. But I internalized it so much, I asked ourselves questions. And then this is when I started getting scolded, or people saying to me, why are you questioning the Supreme Grand Master teacher? What are you talking about? He trained us to ask questions. What do you mean? So by the definition of what you shared, then yes, that would be a cult.
Matter of fact, I'm gonna just share my screen. We'll go to Etzim Online, and I don't know. Let me go back here and see. y'all can see in the audience, you know, the etymology of the word cult. Because if we go by definitions, as Brother Chuck said, you know, basically everything's a cult. Hold on, I'm trying to see if it shows up correctly. Okay, boom. All right, so the word cult from the 1610s is means worship or homage, a particular form or system of worship, from French cult, Latin cultus, care, labor, cultivation, culture, worship, reverence.
Okay. Guess he went out.
What up?
All right. So I guess while we're waiting for him to come back in, so the etymological definition of cult is also related to culture, which all that is definitely correct. So sorry, you said okay.
I don't know what happened.
Yeah, I was going to spark a dialogue up to keep it going. You know,
I probably got kicked off because the God Killer came on.
All right.
Peace, Brother Ankh. Can you hear?
What's going on, brother Saul?
Nothing much. Nothing much.
I can hear you loud and clear.
All right. We were just going over the definitions of a cult, and we're about to go into, you know, or at least the guest, because everybody's heard me before on the past two shows, but at least our guest experience in the cult. So now we're basically asking the question, well, what is a cult? And if we go by the literal definition of a cult, everybody belongs to a cult, because it is just generally the culture and to give reverence and to worship and to honor. And so if we say, for example, that the Nuwaupians and the Hebrews and all of them are cults, but then we promote indigenous African spirituality, they're cults too. So what distinguishes cult from the literal sense to how we utilize it in the modern sense? What is that extra that be like, nah, this is something different than just the general culture of a people? And so that's where we were before I got kicked off. I don't know how that happened. And before you got in. So I'm sorry?
Yeah, it's the StreamYard you're using. Let's do
it. Indeed. So, you know, I already showed the definition of whatnot. So dealing with culture and the cult or whatnot. But so I'm going to go down my line, so to speak, and, you know, starting with Chuck, then Brother Sonjedi, and then Brother Ankh. Since all of y'all seem to have been Nuwaupians at one point, you know, just briefly tell me, you know, how long you were in, where you were in, what draw you to the organization, and then what made you leave. And then we'll get back into, you know, after everyone's gone through, we'll go back into the details of that experience with each one of y'all. So Chuck, then Brother Sonjedi, and then Brother Ankh.
Okay, my experience started back in Washington, D.C. See, here's the thing, before I even get into it. Nuwaupians, or Nuwaupian as the group, didn't come around until the latter part of the 1990s. If you go back to the history of the organization, it officially got its start in New York, Coney Island, of all places, in 1970. I came on the scene around 1989, and back then we were known as the Ansar Allah community, or Nubian Islamic Hebrews. And that was my beginning, which, because I was always around consciousness, if you will, for lack of a better word. When at one time I used to make kufis, and I was really into a lot of book reading, because I spent a lot of time up at the place known as the House of Knowledge on Georgia Avenue, right up the street from Howard University. And you had the Kabbalah books, you had Pyramid Bookstore, you had the Nation of Islam had a center there. You had Islamic Visions Video. You had, this was the Mecca in DC for consciousness back in the 1980s. So that was where I really got into knowledge of, I guess you could say, knowledge of who we are as a people, and the different groups that had various degrees of how they wanted to teach it. So it came one time outside of my house. There was back then was People's Drugstore. I saw a brother dressed in white, and I thought it was funny, because usually you see these guys standing out there with incense and a table full of oils and things. I really wasn't too into that. So I just bypassed the fellow. Is
selling oils part of the cult manual? Is like that the first characteristic of a cult? Like everyone sells oils?
I think that because at that time we were, as Ansars, being as though it was centered around Islam, oils, fragrances, frankincense, myrrh, the burning of incense, and all that was part of the culture. So it was naturally incorporated, and that was a means to generate revenue. My initial introduction into the organization or cult was, I was in Georgetown one night and I was partying, but because I was making all of these kufis and things, I got I came across a lot of, back then, hip hop was just really getting into its heyday. And I saw the paid in full video. So I did a kufi that had the the tassel, without the tassel, but it was just, the one that Rakim had, with a little thing on the side. So I rocked it, had the compass, had the crescent and star right here in the center. So I was roaming downtown, in Georgetown in particular. And I came across a brother who got out of the car and stepped to me and said, asked me, "You God?" I was basically, I didn't know how to answer the question, because I didn't know where he was coming from, because he came off kind of an aggressive tip. And so I was like, huh? And because I was wearing it, he figured that, you shouldn't be wearing something you don't know what you're representing. And then he started breaking down all of these this jargon that he was coming with. And, I was like this, like, whoa, what was he saying? So I had, I don't like it when people stick me. So what I did was I needed to go back and study what this 5% thing was, So one day I went out past the CVS and I saw a book on the brother's table, and it had the 5% symbol. It was called The True Star of Islam. And, Imam Isa, and it had, the Nation of Islam, the 5%, it had the Balalians, it had everybody. And so I got the book, and he gave me an audio. I think it was, I can't remember. It was a True Light tape. And when I opened the book up, I saw York. And I was like, oh, man, what is this? He had the staff and, that look. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, I'm not reading it. So I really didn't get into it until it was just kept picking with my head. So I eventually played the audio, and he didn't sound anything like he looked, and which surprised me. And he had a sense of humor, and he sounded like he knew what he was talking about. It was very impressive, because it was right in line with what I was looking for in terms of how to address this whole Nation of Islam thing. So I got another book, and then another one, and another one. And because, you know, I was doing pretty good, you know, financially, you know, I really didn't have to worry about money. So the brothers was like, you know, why don't you take it to the next level? Because I started coming down to the classes, and I was just asking the brother, you know, I just wanted to know once and for all, was Jesus black? And that was my thing. You know, all the Islam stuff, I wasn't even really interested in that at all. You know, because I was pretty much raised a Christian, you know, moms and all that stuff. So my whole thing was I just wanted to get the information. Okay, this is the way it is. Got it. Move on. But then, you know, you build a relationship with some of the brothers because, you know, it was this camaraderie thing, you know. And the way that it was pitched, the brother who was teaching, Emir Idris from New York, he had this way of teaching that I was like, I'm loving this. And ironically, at that time, when I first went there, he got into a debate with a Sunni Muslim. And that carried on for about 3 hours, and I was loving it. So that kind of showed me, said, wow, these guys are rough, they sharp, they had the courage, they right, I'm with this. And that was how it kicked off for me. So I say within a few months, I moved in 1989, I moved into the 9th Street and Rhode Island Avenue Northwest community. And that was the beginning of my journey within the organization.
Right. I'm gonna save the question of why did you leave last. I want to kind of go through and hit that. So I want to make that a distinct conversation in of itself. So with that, so it appears as if, you know, one, you know, they affirmed for you that Jesus was black, and they had, you know, a charismatic leader, and they appeared to be able to debate, you know, everyone else in a way that it seemed like they had the superior knowledge. Am I correct on those things?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna see if there's a pattern here. So, Brother Sonjedi.
All right. So my experience began in 1995. I was 14 years old. And the Nuwaupian doctrine, it wasn't my introduction into self-knowledge itself in regards to having some type of an African consciousness. I really have to give that to my mother. But as far as deliberate reading, I would have to give that to Dr. Edward Robinson, the author of Journey of the Sonjedi People, which I've read about a year prior to that. But anyway, so how I got into it. A friend of mine who lived in the neighborhood, he was a few years older, you know, than me. You know, he came by and he was like, yo, man, I got this knowledge, man. He started talking about, you know, this things in the world that we're unaware of. We're asleep. We don't see things. And he pulled out a $1 bill. And he started breaking down the $1 bill, saying how, hey, look on the back, you see the eye, da-da-da-da. You know, look on the left side is, you know, ancient knowledge. And then the right side is the, you know, Western people. And then he like folded the dollar bill and he showed what appeared to be a spider in the upper right-hand corner with the web around it, okay, for the $1 bill. And then he started talking about the World Wide Web, the internet, you know, and I'm just fascinated. I'm like, whoa. So I don't know how long we were talking. All I know is when he left, it was nighttime, and I was looking out my window like, oh my gosh, like this whole world of things is going on. I have no idea. So I was shook, you know, and I wanted to learn more. So let's just say the next day or a few days later, he comes back over and he brings a pamphlet that they were called scrolls. And I don't remember exactly which one, but it was one of those introductory level ones that you pass to those who you wish to convert. Mm-hmm. So I read it, and you know, they're pamphlets. You could read it. You could read it in less than an hour, basically. You know, if you really wanted to. But there was always packed with information. You know, it would have scriptures, quotes, and I noticed it will always have the language. So if it was quoting from the New Testament, it would have the Greek, you know, and let's just say King James, and then it would say real translation by Dr. York. So it's establishing the superiority of the teacher or the leader and the ability to translate. So I got attracted to that. And now, mind you, this occurred in Delaware, and my hometown was Philly. So whenever I would go to classes on Sundays, we would go to 152nd Street in Philly, called the Holy Tabernacle Ministries. That's the sign that was out front. So we'd go there every Sunday, knowledge class, and the teacher would stand up. And
I think I live not too far from there.
Right, yeah, exactly.
I would always see the Nuwaupian, you know, down the street when I would go that way. But yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Right on 52nd Street. So the teacher at that location would not initiate a topic. The teacher would say, well, introduce him or herself, well, himself, it was at that time it was only men teaching, at least at that facility, and say, okay, ask me a question. And wait for someone in the audience to ask a question, and then that's how the conversation would spark. And I just got really fascinated until I started peddling the books myself. I've never actually lived in the community. I did pretty much everything else. So that's where I started debating Christians. And at that time, at least in my perception, Christians were always the easiest. They were the, you know, your beginning stage. And then you graduate into debating Muslims, because they were more difficult to debate with. You got to know your stuff better than Christians. And you know, of course, Hebrew Israelites, who were more aggressive, if you will. And I was just getting in any and everybody, getting all the books. I started selling the books, and I was always between Delaware and Philly. So, you know, that's what got me into the knowledge. I was always fascinated with knowledge reading, because I was doing it all my life, even up to that point. Well, yeah, you know, we'll just save more detail for further conversation.
All right, brother Ankh.
All right, so
That's your dog barking.
yeah, there we go. I'm going to get him straight. The wolf didn't make his full transition yet. Meant to mute that out.
Let me try to bring that evolutionary talk to this channel. Anybody who believes in evolution is in a cult. So.
The code of evolution, the code of science. Funny. So yeah, well, my introduction into consciousness was really, I didn't even know it. It was a Dr. Ben video, and I didn't know who the hell Dr. Ben was. As a matter of fact, I was in Tennessee, and my friends had got me out of Baltimore. They was drying me out for a while. Boom. So I'm in Tennessee, and a friend of mine, he gave me a book, Black Athena, and he gave me a damn Dr. Ben tape. I look at the tape. Dr. Ben said out of his mouth, somebody asked him, did he believe in God? He was like, God. He said, if I did believe in God, it would have to be my mother and my father. He said, they birthed me. He said, before them, I didn't know nothing. He said, they clothed me and fed me. And that's stuck right here. Okay. Now, how did I get to know about the Nuwaupians? Malachi York. I believe it was a Friday night. I know exactly it was a Friday night. I know I was. I was on Emerson Avenue, Baltimore, Maryland, and I was with my lieutenant, and we was in a stash house, and we was counting up money. All right, a lot of money at the end of the night after you do all your collecting. Okay, And on his desk and on the table, this dude had some books. I was like, well, what in the world? He had some tapes, some books and some tapes, right? I said, what the hell is this? We put the damn tape in, and there's Malachi York beating up the Bible. I was like, I'd never heard nobody beat the Bible up like that. He hit us with the, with the Cain and Abel and the whole 9 yards, like, things that was clearly wrong that most people don't even see. It's like, man, that's incredible right there, right? So he gave me some tapes, all right? And not only did he give me some tapes, he gave me one of those, I'm talking about videotapes. He gave me a cassette. What was the Mo Better? Chuck, what's the name of the show you was on? The Mo Better? What was that? You hear me, Chuck? Oh, Asar, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I'm in the back chat. Yeah. He says that he can't hear.
You got to go out and come back in.
Yeah.
Yeah, go out again. So I'm listening. So first of all, Chuck is on the Mo Better show, and he beat them up with the Bible. I'm like, man. So now I'm in golf. I'm in Baltimore, Maryland. I'm in golf. I'm in the thick of it, right? But I got Dr. Ben in my head, right? Talking about God and how God couldn't be nobody else but his damn parents, right? And I got Malachi York beating up the Bible. So that was really my first experience, right? Those books that was on the coffee table and the tapes and the tape that Chuck was on, right? Chuck's on the Mo. I swear, Chuck is giving them the business. It's some kind of, I think the show was called Scriptures Unlimited. And Chuck is giving them the business. Man, I was addicted to listening to Chuck and the way he was going against Christians, right? And all the Christians that was calling up and Mo Better. And he killing them. Now the Christians wasn't no average Christians that was on there. Right? I think one of them might have been a theologian, and Chuck is giving them but they going through the whole thing, the script, they digging in. So I was always very, very enthused, with the Bible and how to actually break down the Bible and beat it up and all that, right? Fast forward a little bit, right? I end up in Georgia, okay? And I'm saying, man, I need to go see the pyramid. So my lieutenant was like, because I believe my lieutenant's family was actually Nuwaupians. They was Ansar. Yep. That's why, that's why he had like a Muslim name and all that. I didn't even know all that. Right. But they always talk about if you go to Georgia, go see the pyramids. And so, when I went down to Georgia, see my uncle, and we went to Eatonton, and I never forget it, coming down that road, when you hit that bend, right? You see the goddamn pyramids pop up. And it's crazy how they pop up real slow. Sonjedi know what I'm talking about. Come up real slow. And you just be like, dang, that's interesting. And so, when you go on the land, very peaceful, nobody smoking, it's all about reading books, knowledge, the whole 9 yards. So on the outside, what I'm saying? Being on Eatonton, listening to Malachi York teach, right, was a very, very interesting situation. Going to the classes was very, very interesting. And I guess we'll break it down later on. But for me, it put me in a position where I started, just reading all the time again, and they really took advantage of your ignorance, and they took advantage of you wanting to be really black, right? And those two things right there, your ignorance of understanding, having no scientific literacy, right? And I call it your blackology, where you wanted everything to be black. You was like, yeah, I finally see how we did something. You be hyped up, gassed up. So I personally, although I know it was a cult, everything about it wasn't negative. And I know y'all saying what you're talking about. And I'm telling you firsthand that you could be in a cult and the experience does not have to be negative. And so cults, I believe, are multi-layered. And depending on which level you get to, and I think Sonjedi can speak to that, right? I never got to the interworkings of it, right? And I never lived on the land, right? And my personal experience was positive, right? So, and I know you say, well, damn, Now, when I look back in hindsight and what Malachi York did, we all know it was a crime against the babies, and a crime against the babies is a crime against humanity. But the level I was on, how about you, Sonjedi? I know that the level I was on, just coming up to the classes every Sunday, buying the books, being in the bookstore, on you know what I'm saying, and reading, and stuff, and it was negative for me, huh?
Yeah, you know, I mean, for me, it was mostly positive for me. You know, it was about studying, you know, getting the books, you know, just trying to enlighten people, etc. You know, but you know, you don't experience what the limitations are until later if you get into like critical thinking and reading other authors, etc. But I did like the fact that it was always pushing you to gain knowledge. Now, what your attitude was about knowledge, again, that's another story about who has access to knowledge, who is the distributor of the knowledge, and who's legitimate and who's not legitimate to distribute that information. So that's another conversation. But you know, I have very few friends from that era that still, you know, like when I go to Philly, especially like to the Malcolm X park, you know, when we have festivals there, I still see people that's known me from way back in the day, you know, and it's always all love. So, you know, there's no hate there at all. I think people just pretty much got past it. Plus, it was so long ago, you know, that I stepped away. I stepped away in 2000, you know, for reasons that we'll get into later on in the show.
So you stepped away in 2000, huh?
Yeah, I stepped out in 2000 because, you know, I was, you know, good 5-6 years in it. And, you know, it was time, you know, because I was growing. But again, we'll save that because I don't want to give away that detail. But yeah, you know, when you go down to Eaton, you go on that long road and you start pulling up, you see a little bit of it up to the right. And then you pull up to the pylon, and then you go and it's a dirt road. You know, you got the brothers there standing guard at the front. Yeah, it was always fascinating. See the two pyramids. One pyramid is where there's like a store inside of it. Another one was specifically for prayer. You know, it had the labyrinth around it, and it's a constant 24-hour meditative sounds. All you know, so it always puts you in that state of wanting to meditate and focus and relax. So I did appreciate that experience, and I was able to get, you know, the cameras with 21 pictures in it that you throw away. Put back in. So I still have some of those pictures.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you never
hear you. Can you hear us?
There's no echo?
No.
Man. All right, good, because I don't know what's wrong with my end. Where do we leave off? I forgot.
Well, we left off on how I got into it and was listening to a lot of your work on the Mo Better show. I was trying to tell them that. So I came in like 2000. When was you making them tapes, Chuck?
We were doing that like the mid 90s.
All right, so I got hooked on listening to Chuck Morgan. Most of y'all don't even know it. And it shows the genius that Malachi York did. He took people that was very intelligent and he just co-opted them, took their work. So, you know, you would actually think that Chuck was in the Nuwaupian studio calling the show. Yeah, it's deep. No, hold on. I'm telling you how masterful it was, right? You would actually think that Malachi York was training Chuck on how to beat that Bible, and that's not even what it was. Chuck gonna tell you that's not even what it was. So it was a lot of. I think y'all talk about the differences between cults and like right now, and because you know I could argue that Christianity is a cult. It's just a big cult. It's a big cult, right? It's the negative aspect of it, meaning so the way the dude took advantage of people. So he really took advantage of Chuck's work. Chuck was a master, right? I put Chuck up against anybody when it comes to, he like the secret weapon. The scriptures and all that, nah, you're not getting past Chuck. There's no getting past Chuck, forget about it. So I got addicted to listening to Chuck. I had all his tapes. I still got some, I believe. Right, like this. I lied to you.
It was 11 of them. Yeah. He took the show from the radio. That was from the Mo Better Man show. We did the radio, and he released those audio tapes all over the world. Made money off it. I got nothing for it. It's all good. But I enjoyed the back and forth with the dialogue, because in the process of doing all of those shows, I grew. You know, in addition to what I was getting from his publications and what he would tell me to say or whatever, other people who brought different viewpoints, they did enlighten me. I wouldn't say the brother Rick at the time.
Not Rick.
No, no. Actually, Rick, you know, to be honest with you, Rick reminds me.
That's good.
Is that an emergency broadcast system?
I hope not.
Why?
Is that somebody? Is that an Amber Alert on somebody's phone?
I don't know what
Amber Alert. Malachi York has gotten loose.
That was
Watch
an
your
Amber.
kids.
That was an Amber Alert.
Oh, is that what it was?
Before we move forward, I want to go through these. Well, I was jotting some notes down while y'all were talking before I logged off and got back on. So some common characteristics that I'm seeing from y'all experience is that there appears to be that the organization, and when we're talking about defining certain aspects of a cult, it appears that the organization brings about some secret and sacred knowledge, as if like this organization has information that no one else does in when it regards the truth of reality. I'm seeing that. Finding racial pride. And so like with Brother Chuck, he said that, you know, he was dealing with the Jesus being black. And that's one of the things that attracted me to the Hebrew Israelites as well, is that they were making these important people in the Bible black. And then, which leads me to the next one that links to a glorious people. So we are the original Hebrews. We are the original Arabs, you know, the original man, yada, yada, yada. And there's a strong debate feature, you know, about that, like their willingness to challenge, you know, others. And so do y'all agree with these? What would y'all add?
You're right on point.
I agree.
I think that one of the things is, I don't know, this mic is acting weird. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right. I agree with that not everything was bad within the organization. I mean, I don't think I've ever said that it was. I mean, I even to this day, I still say, in spite of what he did, I mean, the guy, he was a funny dude. I mean, whenever I was around him, I enjoyed myself when we were all together, you know, because we would laugh, joke, you know, he would pick on people. He was a funny guy, plain and simple.
Yep.
But at that point, well, I'm not going to go into, because that goes into what you wanted to go as far as why I left. But there were so many things that we did culturally, if you will, within that group that I learned a lot. I had some good times. I met some good people, some really smart individuals, highly intelligent, good people, sisters, brothers. Met a wonderful young lady that we're still friends to this day. She's in the chat, but won't say who she is. But I mean, listen, I never really had a bad time within the organization, other than when we had the radio show and there was a brother that sabotaged it because he was jealous because he wasn't getting the shine, if you will. You know, because you know, listen, I didn't set out for that kind of thing. I just wanted to increase my knowledge, because Jewels of Aton, House of Knowledge, a Pyramid Bookstore, they had beautiful books, but then the publications that York was releasing, it captivated me just by the covers alone.
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah.
the subject matter.
Yeah,
Because it was very controversial. Where was Jesus God? The resurrection, you know.
Are they black devils?
Are they black devils? You know, these questions that
Hold
you
on, Chuck.
actually have.
Hold on, Chuck. Who rolled the stone?
Oh man. Who wrote that? Well, listen, I had on my table, I had it all. And because I love I love to have a back and forth dialogue with people, it was perfect for me because I was making money. I was intellectualizing.
That's good.
I was at the way I felt about it, I was enlightening people. And of course, the people who came that wanted to debate, if you will, on an aggressive tip, I loved it. I embraced it. They had to leave because I would follow them home.
Yeah, I mean, I can relate, you know, to Chuck. You know, like I didn't have, you know, most of my experiences were positive. You know, I was learning how to do ritualistic type prayer. You know, me and my friends, we would, you know, go in my basement and we would cut the tape on, and we would hear the meditative singing and chant, and we would do it together. We, you know, learned about, you know, hygiene, which a lot of that I still do to this day. You know, following those hygienic laws. You know, we got heavy Leviticus, what to eat, what not to eat. You know, and to this day, I don't eat pork. I haven't eaten pork since 1995. You know, so those things I do value. You know, that have an impact on me today. You know, so it wasn't. You know, of course, it wasn't all bad. Again, I was reading these books.
Oh man!
I ended up reading the entire Bible from page 1, Genesis, to the end of Revelation by the time I was 16 years old. If I was 16, I read it all the way through.
Yeah.
On top of that, you know, I was exposed to Arabic. I was exposed to Arabic. By the time I was 17, I read the entire Quran from page 1, the first order, all the way to the end. And, you know, of course, Hebrew or Aramaic, so a little bit of Greek, and you're exposed to all these things and you're bombarded, and it's like, wow. And you don't really see anyone else going to those levels. And you also have it to where Dr. York is putting out books from other doctrines. So the 5%ers lessons, he compiled them and put them into a book. He made his own translation of Old Testament, New Testament, Quran, etc. And he's like, wow, like he's just out for everybody.
In jail.
You know, you know, and using these, you know, so-called proper names. Like, man, we on another level.
Pseudoisms. So I tell you what, that's why I know I'm personally undefeated against the pseudos, right? Like, because once Malachi York thing was pseudo training 101. Like, you will never find a greater teacher of pseudoisms, of truth and falsehoods mixed and imagined. There is no.
I don't know.
There's a lot of them out there.
The Hebrew Israelites got some pseudo teachings for your ass. And this is the reason why I titled the show the way that it is. Why like everyone should join a cult. You know, hopefully you will come out of it. Yeah. You know, if you're strong enough to eventually come out of it, but it humbles you and makes you appreciative of the fact that you are not as smart as you think. That you can easily be swayed into some wrong information. And that, you know, if you come out stronger on the other time, you'll be careful of what you teach to other people, because you have a care and concern now about their development. And so like when I think about like those years that I was going and teaching, you know, the Hebrew Israelite doctrine, and now I got to come back and say I was wrong, you know, on essentially all of that stuff. You know, I don't want to, and, you know, and people are looking to me for sound information. and now I got to come back and be like, my bad, you know, and apologize for this stuff. And so it's like, you know, I take seriously now the information that I bring to the public because of that experience, you know, with the Hebrew Israelites. But I think everyone should join. But, you know, hopefully, you know, you have the will to come out of it alive and a critical thinker, you know, later on. But you're not going to learn critical thinking in the cult. I can guarantee that. But
yeah, because you would challenge it.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, if you had the critical thinking skills, you would challenge
you
it.
Be in there, exactly.
You wouldn't be in there.
But that's one of the things. Who was it? Sonjedi said that, you know, the being in the organization opened him up to some material that he probably would not have read, you know, on his own devices. And it's the same thing even with the Hebrew Israelite tradition. And so we were looking at these alternative, you know, conversations, like in reading about, you know, European history and, you know, the Borgiers and the, you know, and the structures and all of that, and in biblical history and all of that, that if I was still in the church, I would have never, you know, chose to look at, because, you know, there'll probably been a sin. But, you know, so it gets you. What am I trying to say? At least with the Hebrew Israelites, and I can see this with the Nuwaupians, they cultivate some self-study. But what I'm also getting from the cults in general is that if you don't read the prescribed books that they have, and if you don't come to the same conclusions that they have,
it's a problem.
Then it's a problem. And I think that's ultimately where the problem is. There's no room for free thinkers.
No.
And everyone has to agree with the leadership. Otherwise, they are, you know, in a sense, ostracized. Has that been any of y'all experience with the Nuwaupians?
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah, you go Chuck first now.
Oh, man. See, it had got down to the point where so many people started getting publications from other writers, and then they would confront York about it. And what does he say about this? And his response was, I don't read that stuff. See, when he would give classes, there would be classes that's for the general public. And then for us who own stores, we would go down on different times of the week and make purchases. And then he would have classes set aside, and then he would give instructions on what's going to be the new fad or the new doctrine that he's going to teach. So there was a brother, everybody I get to know, 𒁲𒈠𒃶🨊. Okay, he started reading Matrix books. And, you know, Deke was one thing I could say, that was another brother that, you know, they probably hate me today because of Nuwaupianism.com. But he was my mentor when I was in the community, because all he did was study. And so by the time when he was going down to get books for the store, he started asking questions about the Matrix book, and then York embarrassed him and started talking, you know, you need to ask that brother about that. You don't come to me with that kind of stuff. I'm above that, you know. So we were all, at that point, a lot of us was like, whoa, you know, you don't ask him. See, there were questions that you asked that had to come from the publications that he put out, where you want to get more information or how to debate better, or how to slice up a Christian, Muslim, Hebrew, Israelite, Israeli church, whatever. But if you start asking questions about something in the, I'll give you the point. At one point when I had broke off, I started hanging out with Steve Copeland. And, you know, at one point, Steve would quote, say, the Leviathan book. He would quote just the thing about E pluribus unum. And then he would say, well, Dr. York, in his book, Leviathan and 666, he says that, you know, out of many come one. And then he's talking about the New World Order and all this other stuff. And just breaking away at that point, and, you know, being around him and the Naming the Names committee and the Boule and all that stuff, I had access to stuff that York never taught. And so when I would do my classes and people will start going into different topics, I would bring up the Boule, and then go on, and Henry Minton, and it was it was Sigma Pi Phi, and Minton wanted to establish a fraternity likened to the Skull and Bones at Yale and all this other stuff. So I'm kicking this stuff, and then I'm getting bad flack from York. Who told you that? Why are you teaching that? You know, and so I had to pull back on what I taught or what I was instructed to say, or what I was parroting, because he was opposed to it, because it wasn't something that either he didn't know about or he didn't want to talk about, because that's a topic he never did talk about. So you have to
what you're saying is that unless, you know, the information came from him, then it was not valid in a sense.
It was not valid. No. And because his thing was, the information that I'm giving you is coming not from me, but through me. Because his whole thing was that he was an incarnation of the angel Michael or Melchizedek. And then when he started moving out of that mindset, because see, remember, you got to go back to that critical period in 1989 and 1990, or 88 and 89, when Bilal Phillips wrote the book, The Ansar Cult in America. When that book came out, it changed the game for York. He changed his doctrine. The sisters had to come out of the veils, and we started adopting this country western attire. Because
hold on, real quick. Why? Because I got that book. Why was that? You mean the book with hold on, do I got the response book to that with your picture on it, with the Muslim garb on?
He wrote a book called The Ansar Cult in America, The Rebuttal, or The Rebuttal to the Slanderers, The Ansar Cult in America. That book is, yeah, and that book got me fired, ironically, because when I worked at Islamic Visions Video, the brother, the Pyramid Bookstore, one of them, I would let the brothers come in, and they gave me books for free, and I put it in the store. And I said, if you get the Ansar Cult book, I'll give you that book for free. And the person running the store did not like that. He was a Sunni Muslim. See? And so when I saw the conflict there and how they feared York at the time, I was like, man, I'm down with him. Because everybody seemed at that time to be afraid of him. Nobody wanted to debate him. And so,
Chuck, you know, Amenhotep, is he one of the ones who's part of the triad teaching team?
Yes. It was Amenhotep, Haru-Hotep, and Khansu-Hotep.
Yeah.
He was the big dude with the big fat neck, dark skin brother. Yeah. He's in Detroit now.
When I saw them in the late 90s teaching, you know, they would switch out, you know, up on the stage, and I was like, damn.
Oh, they were bad. I will say this. Listen,
what about Bun? Hold on, Chuck. What about Bun?
Bun, Boston Bun. By that time, Bun was already down on the land. They were trying to establish York was trying to establish 3 triads. So he had the ones that was on Tamaray. He had me, another brother, Jonathan Johnson, and this other guy. So we were going to be the triad in the north. After we had got raised in the Masonic thing down there, that was when I was doing the radio show, and I had these other guys with me, and that's how we were going to. It was going to manifest from there, and because that conflict happened between me and another guy, you know, it almost went down to blows. He canceled it, and that's why he just said, just open up a store for yourself.
So, you know, just to kind of, I'm gonna say veggie back, you know, off of Chuck, with your experience with conflict when you start bringing in outside knowledge. So I remember there was a book, I think it was called El-Magaraj. I think it was
Garage,
about the pilgrimage.
Yes.
like I said, I think it was that book. And if it's not, it's like on page like 48 or 46 of that book. I think it's that one, where York mentions, he says, the Kabbalion, the book of Tahuti, such and such and such and such. And when I read that, I was like, I got fascinated. I'm like, wait a minute, you mean to tell me that there's an Egyptian god that has a book of writings that I have access to? Yeah. Now, at this point, I didn't know the word Kemet. I didn't get there yet. It was just Egypt with an I instead of a Y. So I was only reading Dr. York's book because that's how we're conditioned. His books are the only ones that are legitimate and worth reading. If you need to know about other stuff, get it from here, and we'll tell you about the other stuff. So I took it upon myself to get this book, the Kabbalion. I called, it was Borders. This one, Borders bookstore was still open. I ordered it. Came in the mail. I went up, well, I came to the bookstore, went and got it. And this is it. This is that right here. This is the copy of that book, the Kabbalion. This is mine.
Yeah.
And when I got this book, this is the very first book I've gotten regarding knowledge that was not published by Dr. York at this point. You know, at least since I started reading his books. And this is the book that I say freed my mind, if you will. Because in here, it talks about the mental universe, the plane of matter. I mean, the all is in all, just as all is in the all. Right? And it's like that. But God, I'm like, damn, okay. And then I'm reading the meaning of it. But let me tell you, when I walked away from this book, I read this in less than a week. It was like starting over again. I realized that no one man has a monopoly on knowledge. That's what I got out of this. You know, now I don't adhere to the Kabbalah at all, etc. However, yeah, that's what I came out of there, and that the universe is my class, is my university, and different people I meet are different schools, and you know that we're conditioned to say, I am God.
Yes.
So that means that I have the ability and power of discernment myself if I'm God. But I'll stop there because then that segues into, I know, Asar's final question. But I met a lot of resistance.
Yeah. Oh,
talking about the book that, I know. Hey, like, hold on. He's quoting this book. Why can't I get this book? What's wrong with me reading it? So go ahead, bro.
Listen.
Now you won't, Chuck. Stop, Chuck. I'm next. Relax, Chucky. Chuck Morgan.
Don't get me started about it because I can't stop.
Chuck. Man, if I let you go,
because sorry. Can I share my screen before?
No, man. Let me go. Come on with that.
Hey, I got the mic. Go ahead, bro. I can pull it back up.
You can get let me say this. So
go ahead.
I want to talk about vulnerability. It's based off of how vulnerable you are in the cult. So for me, you know, I had my family was fully intact, meaning my aunts and uncles would come pick me up. I had my mother, my father, right? So I didn't need a family. I didn't need a gang. I needed a family, right? And so for me, I never, first of all the alien talk and all that malarkey, I never listened to none of that. None of that was foolishness, complete foolishness, right? My whole thing was trying to understand what God was, right? That was my whole thing. None of that, just the God piece, right? And so remember, I came into the school, the y'all was gone. I came into the Nuwaupian school, being a Nuwaupian, right? That was like the atheistic school. You know what I mean? You feel me? That's strictly the atheistic school. You wasn't there, Sonjedi, and by then you was gone, Chuck. So our whole thing was beating up religion. That was the thing, beating up the religion. You know what I'm saying? So when y'all see me beat up religion, man, y'all know that. Y'all know why. But the point was, when I came to Eatonton in 2000, I had a pocket full of money. So I didn't need money, so I wasn't vulnerable in that, right? I didn't need friends. I already had my friends. All I needed was some education on this thing, talking about black people and where we fit in this whole thing, right? So early on in the game, I always had problems. First of all, I'm not running around broke with y'all because people on the land were just broke. Yeah. So I'm not doing that. You know what I'm saying? I'm fresh to death, right? And you can't tell me I can't read another book because that's just dumb. So when I go to the lodge, right? You know, I would get in arguments with people. I'm like, what do you mean? Like Jesus found in Egypt. But if you look at the back of Jesus found in Egypt, he has a bibliography like Dr. Ben. He actually quotes out of Dr. Ben's work. So I got Dr. Ben's work. I also got Ashigant Diop's work. Okay? And for me, Sonjedi, reading Diop's work made me say, it was another level. Because I started to realize that your books would like kind of repeat itself and it never reached a fucking conclusion. You know what I'm saying? Once you get a good author, you be like, that shit. And so I would always challenge. I was like, man, look, one person can't know everything. Y'all bugging and all that shit. I got a father. Y'all tripping. So I was always that dude who was, y'all know how I get down. Like, man, get out of here with that nonsense. So yeah, I like this, but I think y'all going a little bit too far. You know what I'm saying? And I had Brother Bun. So really, I got a lot of information from Bun. And Bun, you know, I appreciate him. I talk to him to this day. He actually kept me grounded. He's like, man, don't listen to that shit. Nope. Don't believe that. Nope. He was like, yo, just stay here and do it. And so he kept me grounded. And so the challenge was on for me from day one. But what I did not have scientific literacy so I could give the true critique.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. Chuck?
Oh, flip your screen, Chuck.
Okay. No, see, here's the thing, because on the website there's a section on plagiarism. All right, let me try this, because I've never been on StreamYard, so let me try to share. One moment. Okay. I'm trying to share. Hold on. Says not responding. Give it time. Give it a sec. Okay. Oh, where is it? Right here. Okay. Can anybody see this?
I don't see nothing just yet.
Okay, hold on.
It'll pop up. It may just be, you know.
Oh yeah, I see it now. Yeah. Okay. All right, this book right here. See, when Sonjedi pointed that out, this is another book. It's called Pyramid Energy, The Philosophy of God, The Science of Man. See, when you had mentioned something about like a lot of the esoteric teachings.
I can't see it, Chuck. I thought you was putting it up.
You can't see it?
Hell no, I just see your face in the microphone talking.
Shit. Hold up.
I hit the screen share.
Damn it. How do you do this?
Screen. Let me see.
Do you see screen share at the bottom?
I see it. Yeah, I got the screen share.
And okay. Did you select, you know, full screen or a particular app? Is it on the website? If you're on Chrome, it'll say Chrome tab or something like that.
Yeah, see?
Yeah.
You see that, Chuck? See, I'm sharing my screen, see?
Yeah, I see that, but for some reason, oh yeah, see Chrome. Yeah, I see it. I got it. Thanks, Asar. Okay, boom. Check this out. You see that?
No.
Hold on, I gotta. Well, it should add it itself. I think I gotta add it personally. So.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go. We got you.
Yeah.
Okay. Now this is from actually a brother, Daryl E. Berry Jr. He sent me this because he had came across this, and I was blown away because a lot of the esoteric stuff, even Morpheus had hit me up with a bunch of books. I forget the brother's name, the DJ for Salt and Pepper. He gave me a bunch of books and tied me in with it and showed me, because this was new material for my website. So what I come to find out is like, whoa. Because see, one of the things about the brother Amenhotep was he always, I never forget it when he would teach classes, because the brother Wudjau, he used to film all the classes in DC and then send it down to York. So one of the things that he would always say is this phrase, electron, proton, electron grids, and all this other stuff, right? So the brother hit me and said, Chuck, check this out. So he gave me this book, and then I looked into it. Where is it? Here it is. Hold on. Okay. Damn, I lost my point. But let me go back up here first. The book is that the Kabbalion book, when he talks about I am in all and all is in me, all that stuff, yeah, York was copying all of this stuff. So when people bring up questions about it, they start to tap into York's source, and he got irritated by that. Just like there were some brothers who had discovered Zecharia Sitchin's writings, and they banded together and they started asking them questions, and then York put them out, and then he pretty much gave them all a bad name. This one, just take a look at this right here real quick. This is from the book by
Me.
Okay, this is the Holy Tablets. And this book, the Book of Knowledge, the Keys of Enoch.
Who wrote that?
That's the latest version right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
so Hertak. This is Hertak's book.
Who?
Now, what's his first name? Forgot his first name.
It's a white boy, ain't it? Ain't it white boy?
Yeah.
Yeah, he gave us all white boy information.
He did that a lot. Especially, and also Indians or Hindu. Okay, so if you look at here, you see the original. Now, this is from Hertak's book. The ionized field around the blood cells loses its proton-electron-proton relationship to a new electron-proton-electron field as the life form is moved into the next phase of the electromagnetic spectrum. The former proton orientation is dropped, and a new recombination process results. Now, York's book says the exact same thing. Look at on page 171 of the Holy Tablets. He's saying the exact thing. If you look at this, you can just go to if you go to my website, Nuwaupianism.com, in the plagiarism section, you'll see this, and you can compare and see for yourself that, I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, needless to say, Zecharia Sitchin was one of his main samples to use, and that pretty much, so that gave him extra millions from the books that he was he was selling.
That seems to be another pattern as well, is that ultimately a lot of, I would say, black cults that we can call cults in the modern sense get a lot of their information from white boys and don't credit them.
Facts. Why they hate white people the whole time.
Yeah, that seems to be the heart of their information. They come and act like they're bringing something new and profound, and also that there's a connection. This is something that I mentioned in my conversation about the Hebrew Israelites, and I didn't know that about, because I wasn't in the Nuwaupians. When I left the Hebrews in the late 90s, I didn't deal with nobody. I didn't want to go to another, organization. So I didn't come across them. But it seems like they all try to have some kind of connection to some divine being. And so with the Hebrew Israelites, at least the ICUPK back in the early 90s, they claimed to be the reincarnation, at least the chief high priest, that they were the reincarnation of the disciples of the Bible. And so, like when I'm looking at these cults, there's always this so-called connection, this special connection to some kind of divinity, so to speak. And it's like they are special because they have the relationship to the divinity or are a manifestation of the divinity itself. And I find that, you know, whether you're talking about Nation of Islam, whether you're talking about Hebrew Israelites, Nuwaupians, you know, Mormons, you know, the Pope, you know, in terms of the Catholic Church, like it's, you know, you can even say that in terms of a Babalawo, you know, in the Ifa tradition, or the Bia in the Igbo tradition. It's like, you know, these people are saying that they have a special relationship with a divine entity, and this seems to be like the draw for a lot of people. Like, you know, their information must be right and exact because, you know, they have the special relationship with this divine spirit, you know, or whatnot. And so that's something that's common that I'm seeing, you know, with the organizations. But why did y'all specifically, like, what was the straw that broke the camel's back that made y'all say, you know what, I have to separate myself from the organization and or the teachings? What was that situation surrounding or that motivated that move?
Okay. All right. So for me, it was one. I was becoming a man. But remember, I was 14 years old. So once I started, I hit 17, 18. You know, I'm developing as a man and wanting my own independence. So once I started looking at other books, again, after I read this, I said, I was still reading Dr. York's books. But once I came across books like this, Egyptian Yoga by Malachi York, I was like, this is interesting. It was a different style of writing. So I recall there was a book that was put out by the AEO, Dr. York, but AEO. So you had the Ancient Mystical Order of Melchizedek, and then it became the Ancient Egyptian Order, Egypt with an I. So one of the publications was something like the importance of initiation, something like that. But Malachi York has a book at the same time called The Glory of Initiation. I was like, wow, both books are about the same size and the titles are similar. I was reading one, I read the other. I was like, wait a minute, hold on. And I have both books. I put them side by side, and I was comparing and contrasting paragraph to paragraph. Now, mind you, I've heard at this time, it was just rumors to me. So I said somebody he plagiarizes. I was like, nah, that's not real. But I got it firsthand. It wasn't somebody came and showed it to me. I'm reading it, and I read the whole book. I was flipping both pages in both books, and the only thing that he changed was the word understand to overstand. And I was like, you know, yeah, I was devastated. Like it was cognitive dissonance, and I'm glad I was in a room by myself. You know, I don't know what happened. Someone else was there and questioned me, like, "You see this?" I probably would have flipped out. And then there was another
cult members use that word overstand. I'm adding that to the characteristics of cult members. You know, in the woke community is over. I can't stand the word overstand. But I'm sorry, continue.
Yeah. So there was another book that came out. It was called Ancient Egyptian Martial Arts. Got the book, read it. Until I came across this book called Nuba Wrestling by Nigel Benz. Now, Nigel Benz, he was a stuntman in Hollywood. Today, he's a sculptor, professional sculptor. So go on my Facebook page, I'm one of his friends. So when I hit 18, 17 or 18 is when, you know, I was going on Amazon.com pretty heavy. So I could look up ISBN numbers. And then when I hit 19 and 20, ISBN numbers just so I can call Borders of Barnes & Noble to order the books, you know. So I ended up coming across this on the internet, and I'm like, I got the book, and Dr. York plagiarized from this book. So if anyone has ancient Egyptian martial arts, you get this book on Dr. Benz right here. Now, someone may say, oh, well, Dr. Benz, you know, must have got the ideas from him. No, the publication is 1990, right there. That book came out in 2000. And yeah, so that was another straw. I'm like, you know what? I can't do this. Oh, here's one last thing. Now, the teacher at the Philly 52nd Street, you know, again, we're talking, and he's like, yeah, I got to go get these books for Pops, because all of us used to call him Pops back then. And he was saying he had to go pick up African Presence in Early Asia by Renuka Rashidi. So I'm like, wait a minute. You know, I'm thinking, hold on, don't you channel this from the 19th galaxy, whatever, Planet Risk, etc.? Why are you getting books by these other guys? You know, and prior to that conversation, I've never heard of Renuka Rashidi. And I'm like, Renuka Rashidi, wait a minute. So I went and got the book. You know, so I'm like, well, I might as well get this stuff and then not that. So, you know, that year when I turned 19, that's when, you know, Dr. Ben, you know, he would badmouth Dr. Ben. And that's actually how I heard about Dr. Ben. Dr. York badmouthed him because he said, yeah, Dr., you know, we're down here in Tamaray. We're in Tamaray. Dr. Ben, he says Tamar, like playing him out. You know, so I'm like, well, let me find out. So I went and got this book. This is my first Dr. Ben book I ever got and read. Come to find out, Mary is correct and Tamray is not. So that's when I was like, okay, I can't do this. And dealing with the language, Nuwaupian is Semitic, okay? Hands down, it's Semitic. That's it. It's not a conversation, it's Semitic, no matter how you change the verb, the vowels. So I stopped doing that, and then I got this book. Okay, it's all beat up now. This is my first meta-lecture instructor, Amun-Ra. I met him in 2000, and he's my first teacher. And if you want to learn meta-lecture, this is the path you go, not that. Okay, I passed to Mike.
You know you were speaking Nuwaupian. Get out of here.
I was good at it too.
Yeah, that, you know what, that kind of helped you when you got into the real thing, though. That's because remember you write the symbols and all that.
Yeah, I was writing the symbols. I was good at it. You know, got the language book.
Oh man, okay. Go ahead, Chuck. Or you want to go last, Chuck, because you're gonna go the longest.
Oh, yeah. Well, mine is a. Yeah.
That was a question, Chuck.
Here's a weird thing about it. I didn't actually break off from the organization until around 2011, because when I left the mainland and came out here, I still was. I considered myself still to be a Nuwaupian. I kept the books, at least the Christian books, because I figured since they're going to be Mormons, Seventh-day Adventists, and all kinds of Christians and Catholics over here, I figured, why not? I can go up there and battle them, and who knows what happens. I didn't start to really see. Here's the thing: when he got arrested, I, like everybody else, was in denial. Okay, so I rejected any of the stuff about the case, the trial. I didn't want to know anything about it. I just felt, look, they set him up. It's a conspiracy. He's a political prisoner. Blah blah blah. I even went on Mo Better Man show saying that. So that didn't change until I got with Wudjau, because I thought at that time, because I hadn't seen him in years, I thought he was still with it. And you know, we talked, and then I started asking questions about the case because of some incident happened. Because I was going on Facebook throwing questions to the teachers. I would call some of the best teachers he had and ask them questions. The first question that I asked that I wanted to answer, not only to get the answer, because I figured, damn, York has said it over the years, it's in all the publications, but he never showed any evidence of it. The question was, where in Egypt is it mentioned that Abraham created the pig, that Zoser created the pig for Abraham? I asked them all. I asked everybody, because York tells you in the Holy Tablets, in the who did the dog book, did the hog come from mankind? It's in all the latest publications that same thing, that the pig was a byproduct of the dog, cat, and the rat. Right? The dog, cat, and the rat. Now he took that from I think it's How to Eat to Live, or something like that, from the Nation of Islam. Then he started innovating and started adding, well, the dog, cat, and the rat was actually an experiment that took place because of the master chemist Imhotep. They, manipulating the genes, were able to develop, by combining the genes and the fusion of the dog, the cat, and the rat, having the intuitivity and the wisdom of the you know, all this kind of stuff. And that was supposed to be that by way of that formula, Imhotep gave the pig to Abraham when they went to the land of Canaan to eat up all of the carcasses of the dead Caucasians who were the Canaanites. So when I asked the question, nobody gave me answers. So they would say, well, I knew one brother, he said, well, you know, remember the libraries in Alexandria? Yeah, it was there, but they burned it, so that you're not gonna find it. Okay, I said, so okay, well, was that before or after York wrote the book?
Yeah, well, how would you know if it was burned? How would you know it exists?
Exactly. So I knew that was the BS. I used to teach these guys. I know when you go around the question, you play these little word games and you try to divert. It didn't work. So I would throw little blogs up here and there and challenging them, and they was getting pissed off because I'm quoting York. I'm not coming off my thing. I'm quoting him, and so it just bubbled. And then people said, "Why don't you set up a 360 questions I asked in Nuwaupian, blah blah blah," and that's what spearheaded me in that direction. That was around 2011. But when York had finally got convicted and was sent to prison, you know, during the time he was incarcerated in jail, Jones County and these other places, we were still communicating by way of letters, because I was on his mailing list where he can get letters, and he would, you know, tell me, yeah, I'm up here, they're doing this, they're doing that, you know. And because I was doing something that the other brothers wasn't, I was using talk radio. Joe Madison of WOL or XM, whatever. He was the one that instructed me in the studio on how to, you know, conduct yourself, how to use the mic, and all this other stuff that they had in there. So York was he wanted his message to get across to the public by way of the radio show, you know. And he got pissed off at me because I had wrote him a letter saying that the people, you know, they miss you, and they say that you did this and you were still great. And then he got saying that, well, you act like I'm dead. I mean, that's the tone of the letter. And he said, well, we don't need to talk like this anymore. And I hadn't gotten another letter from him since. So I was still holding the torch for the teachings. And then by the time 2011 came around, 2012, I started studying the case, the trial, and all the stuff, and then talking to victims and all that stuff. That's when I realized, damn. That's what I said, damn. And when I read the transcript, the sealed transcripts, and the vivid, gory details, and then looking at private medical analysis, the medical results of victims that never got published, but because people gave me stuff, I saw it. I knew it. The herpes thing, what he had, what this one had, everything. It was all there. So I was after, with an open mind, reading the transcripts, actually putting yourself in the courtroom, seeing what the jury was visually seeing, or the people who were there watching. I came to my conclusion, said, damn, I had to let it go.
With a cord to it?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was slowly building, because when he started coming around talking about he was, when they started releasing True Light tapes, and saying that he is now ready to tell who he really is, he is he is a man from the planet Risk. He's from the 8th galaxy, and he's from the 8th planet in the 19th galaxy called Alien. And when that came out, that kind of gave me chills, because like, how am I going to tell people this? And then the Yakub stuff about having a head, you know, the big head, and then the cone heads from the Saturday Night Live thing. Said no, Saturday Night Live got it from Dr. York. No, but that was the game it was giving us. So it slowly but surely, I was still skeptical, but I was holding the torch, hoping the brother was not lying to me, because I wasn't really a practicing Christian. I just was, you know, I was always questioning, because even when I was in the church, I was asking questions. You know, can I talk to Jesus myself? Would I have to go to, you know? I was like that. I was always skeptical. And then when York would make fun of the word skeptic and say you're a skeptic, you skip over the fact, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
You bring out a kind of a pertinent point that, you know, I always, you know, interject when I'm talking about bringing or developing organizations, you know, for the enlightenment and the betterment of African people, is that it can't be centered around the benevolence of a charismatic leader. Like, it has to be organized in a sense that there's no leader, because if the leader acts up, then, you know, the whole organization for the most part falls. And that seems to be a weakness. Like, we're still, you know, even if we leave the church, we still are looking for a savior, you know, this divine savior, so to speak. And then that prevents us from asking those critical questions, which is one of the reasons why I like, why I gravitate to science and its methodologies, because there is no leader. Everybody's is expected to get their information scrutinized, you know, and then there's a collective consensus, you know, in terms of what is valid and what is not, that is constantly being challenged, you know, by current and upcoming generations who are examining that particular phenomenon. And that's something that doesn't exist. And I always say that one of the major differences between a religion and science is that in science, you are expected to question the wisdom of your ancestors, whereas in a religion, that is a taboo. You know, we think that what the elders and the ancestors said was just right and exact, without any kind of, you know, verification whatsoever. You know, it's because it was something so long ago that, you know, this makes it right and exact. Like, we're always looking for this super ancient, you know, knowledge. And, you know, and you know, we have this mythology that, you know, the information and everything was more pure back in the day, and that, you know, we have digressed since this imaginary golden age. And I find that problematic. But Brother Ankh, you didn't give your story. What was the straw that broke the camel's back, it made you be like, you know what, I got to get out of here dealing with these Nuwaupians?
It seemed like Sonjedi struggled a little bit. It seemed like, Chuck, you struggled for years, bro.
I was loyal.
Let me do this. Let me do this. When them feds ran up on the land, my first thing was, damn, I could have stayed in Baltimore, Maryland, and got the feds ran up on me. This is real interesting here, right? And so, of course, we all said, you know, here's the famous saying. So now all of a sudden, you know what I'm saying, the white man gonna tell the truth. That was the key statement. All of a sudden now, white man gonna tell the truth. And so as the facts started to unfold, you know, we still fought, but I never forget it. I never forget this. My ex-wife, she was like, so, because we debating. It was me, her friend, and my homeboy that was up on the land, right? We just went to the land, right? And, you know, somebody, I think Bun or somebody was teaching, the triad was teaching or something. And on the way back, they were like, so y'all still gonna do this? Yeah, that man locked up for molesting people and all that. Is y'all serious? We was like arguing back and forth. And then my ex-wife made a famous statement. She said, so would you leave your kids up here with him? I did like this. I said no. And from that point on, I never went back. So it was my kids and my love for my kids, right? That it didn't matter whether he did it or not. The fact was I wasn't willing to gamble with my kids. Like I just wasn't, that's not the game I'm gonna play. Like I hadn't lost myself that much, that far. And I'm gonna tell you, cults is like slavery. They cause you to lose yourself. I liken it to slavery. You lose yourself, you lose your identity, and you become the leader. Like the cult of Christianity, you become Christ-like. You know what I'm saying? And certain Hebrew Israelites, you become that particular person. That's why you'll see the Nation of Islam is a cult. They all walk around and talk like Minister Louis Farrakhan. Is it just me? Am I tripping? They all sound the same.
And
they
not
have a
one
certain
of them,
cadence to the way they talk. Same with.
No, I'll just say, like, and nobody ever challenges.
Go ahead.
Minister Farrakhan or Elijah Muhammad. Everything that they say is right and exact. You've never seen someone who was in the organization say, "No, I disagree with this point." You know, with Minister Farrakhan or Elijah Muhammad, they'll never say that. Everything that he says is right and exact, which is why they go crazy if you talk about him, because they believe that he's some kind of divine, you know, saying savior or not. Didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
Okay, so that's a fact. That's how you know it's a cult, when everybody starts to talk and act like that person that actually started the organization. It's bananas. And so it took me one thought to realize that, man, this is crazy, and I'm not willing to put my kids. I couldn't trust that. I'm not doing it. So it was easy for me to get out of that. And then I ran into science, basically. I ran into brothers like Asar Imhotep, and just, you know, I had my own show, the Nikki Love and Unc show. I'm jamming, but I still, you know, you know, pseudoisms stay with you for a while. You don't just lose pseudoisms. You know what I'm saying? You know, men study, we the big wolves on the block. And this damn Asar was like, what you need? Asar challenged every goddamn thing. I'm like, damn, I need him. He challenged. Okay. Sonjedi, smart ass. He come out of nowhere talking about, you know, nigga ain't in the meta nature. I was like, what? But he did it with elegance. He did it very elegantly. Like, cause he had me. Like he had me by the throat. I'll never forget it. I'm on the show. You know, I'm God killer. I'm big man on the block. Yeah, me and Steph. Yeah. Yo was like, brother, that's not. And he showed compassion for me. He really did. Because at that point, I was cussing my head off, but Sonjedi actually showed me compassion in the moment where he had me. And I was like, I think this nigga got me. Let me take back the word nigga. I said, I think he got me. I said, you know, when somebody starts throwing punches a certain way, he was like, man, I don't know if I can deal with that style. Let me see what he got to say. And he told me, yep,
right here. So right here, you said, I remember that conversation from, you see my books don't fall apart. You know what I mean?
They weren't falling apart back then.
And how the word niggers was in the hieroglyphic dictionary.
Like, let's read it.
I was like, and I said, read.
Go there.
So I said, all right, we go. This here's volume 1. Well, what's left of it, right?
We'll find the words.
So boom. I said, go to end. Pull your book out. Go to end. Go to end. And again, this is what I kind of learned from the Nuwaupian cat. Go to the book. Boom. Go to the page. Go to end. And it was spelled like N-G-E-R.
Yeah, N-G-E-R. And yeah.
Right. And I looked at it. I mean, number one, I know one, S is not a prefix for plural in Kemetic. So that's out. Okay. 2, the word nigger is not in the language. You got to go to Latin and Greek for that. You have to go to Indo-European. That I already knew. So when you said it, I'm like, what the hell is he listening to? Nah, I can't let you. Because see, let me see, because we all know each other for over 10 years. So this is probably like 2010.
Yeah, that's
so 2010 comes, I'm already 10 years into studying Medu Neter by this point. You know? So I was like, oh, you got to cut that out. So I broke the word down, you know, and he was like,
dang.
Paused. And I was like, oh, bro, I'm going to get you. But see, here's the thing that I learned. And I won't be long on this.
Yeah, because you cut me off.
Yeah. But see, if you break somebody down and you do not replace what you just destroyed and you leave that person like that, that is irresponsible. And that's what I did as a Nuwaupian. You're debating, destroying somebody's reality, sense of reality, but then you're trying to convert them to take them to something else instead of rebuilding them properly. That is irresponsible. So in that 10 years, I realized I have to be responsible. So if I'm going to say this is incorrect, I have to walk you through what is correct and give you the tool for yourself and not destroy you in the process.
You know, I like to destroy you, leave you there.
Yeah, well, watch this. Let me finish my point. This is important. So, all right. So now I got Asar. He got a show. Ain't nobody watching it. Like they weren't checking for it like that. But it was definitely one of the most educational shows on Blog Talk. I suggest y'all go back and listen to dialogues. He had all the real.
Took it all down now.
Did they? Nah, you crazy. I'm going to get. I still get mine. You ain't doing it right. I'm gonna show you. They ain't gone nowhere, bro. So listen. So he got the real scholars on there, okay? And I got I'm saying during that time, yo, we was smashing Blog Talk. Like it was we was like the Sonjedi shit. Sonjedi used to come on our show. We beat him up. It was there. But just like Asar's doing now, he had the super solid show. Simple scholars, and I was like, what the fuck is he talking about over there like that? And I just would be amazed the way he did it. And I'd be amazed the way Sonjedi was doing it. And every time I would have a conversation to debate against the Hebrews, I start saying, Asar, you going to be there? Yup. Sonjedi going to be there? Yup. And we usually just beat up the religious community together. The Hebrews, that's what we were just killing the Hebrews. And I was like, man, let's just, you know what I'm saying? Then we formed a squad. And I picked the best people that I felt like that was during that time that was better than the shit that was on Sonjedi's better. You know what I'm saying? The people that thought outside the complete box. So they was never thinking in that box, right? And so they kind of raised me to, they raised me to that level of really understanding the what you would call the really knowing how to use the science, how they was big on methodology. So that's when I got the methodology, like, how Asar say, how do you know what you know? But go ahead.
No, it's I wanted to read a few characteristics of a cult, and I should say that I'm gonna do a part 2 to this, and I'm gonna try to get women who've been in some cults and to get their experiences. I'm trying to find the sister, the sister that got me into the Hebrew Israelites, because she has a unique story, and I found it common within, you know, saying the groups in terms of, you know, the Hebrew Israelite groups as far as the women. So I'm gonna try to get some women together, and we have this particular conversation. But I'm on. There's a website called cultresearch.org, and I read a few of these the last conversation. I'm just going to read a few now. I'm not going to read all of the points, but it has some good characteristics, you know, on how you know that you're in, you know, a modern day cult. And so, you know, it says, 1, the group displays excessively zealous and unquestioning commitment to its leader, and whether he is alive or dead, regards his belief system, ideology, and practices as the truth, as law. Now, I mentioned the last conversation that one of the telltale characteristics of a cult is that they call their ideology the truth. like everybody, because like they always say, you know, like, you know, I came into the truth, and you know, da 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 da. But they don't have any kind of methodology that, you know, you can discern that this is the truth or not. They just automatically assume that it's the truth. And so that's one of those characteristics. So it's questioning, doubt, and dissent are discouraged or even punished.
Facts.
The group is elitist, claiming a special exalted status for itself, its leaders, and its members. The leader is considered a messiah, a special being, an avatar, or the group or the leader is on a special mission to save humanity.
Yes.
Like everybody else is lost except everybody is born.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you in a Hebrew Israelite, you know, that is the quintessential essence of the Hebrews. The group teaches or implies that its supposedly exalted ends justify whatever means it deems necessary. This may result in members participating in behaviors or activities that would have considered reprehensible or unethical before joining the group. Yes. For example, lying to family or friends, collecting money for bogus charities, etc. The leadership induces feelings of shame and or guilt in order to influence and control members. Often this is done through peer pressure and subtle forms of persuasion. Let me skip down some. The group is preoccupied with bringing in new members.
Always.
I don't think that is necessarily characteristics of a cult, because if you have an organization, it has to survive with new members.
True, but proselytizing.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Members are expected to devote inordinate amounts of time to the group and group-related activities. They ask the question, how are people who left the group treated? What is said about them? Will the group give you names of people who left, both those who were satisfied and those who were not? And so in essence, you know, when someone leaves the group, are they ostracized for leaving the truth, so to speak?
Yep.
And, you know, anybody can go to my recent YouTube conversation on why I left the Hebrews, right? Well, since when I left, it was over 600 comments, and probably 500 of those comments are Hebrew Israelites in their feelings because I left the Hebrew Israelites. So that should tell you something right there. Is more than one point of view presented? Are any other points of view recognized? Are other points of view seen as valid but different? The group has a polarized us versus them mentality, which may cause conflict with the wider society. The leader is not accountable to any authorities, unlike, for example, teachers, military commanders, or ministers, priests, monks, and rabbis of mainstream religious denominations. Subservience to the leader or group requires members to cut ties with family and friends and radically alter their personal goals and activities they had before joining the group.
Yep.
And there's a whole bunch of other stuff here, but I'm not going to read it all. But I just wanted to, you know, if you want to read the full thing, it is cultresearch.org. And so just reading some of that, what is y'all take on that?
You want to take that?
I'm sorry?
I agree with it, you know, because it ends up being detrimental, and it's a way of mental entrapment, but it's kind of like passive entrapment. So it's not aggressive, it's not out front, you know, with the intention. It's like it's indirect, but it's passive entrapment. But you don't realize it until you get out of it, and you're like, damn, what the hell was I thinking? And I went through that, you know. So, you know, you have the one leader, you know, you don't question at all, is divine. But again, taking the exact same teaching, really listening to Dr. York is actually what got me here, because he said, you are a God. I believed him. And if I'm a God and I can do anything, I took that, and here I am.
Yeah, you know what's deep though, Sonjedi? I'm gonna tell you something that's real. What I realize is people say, well, you know, y'all being in the cult kind of helped y'all do what y'all do. What I realize is it would have been much better for us to get scientific literacy out the gate. That's what I pass on to my babies. So right out the gate, they have scientific literacy, then they can view their religion, whatever they want to believe in, through that lens. And I think we wasted a lot of damn time. A lot of time wasted. So that's why, you know, we try to give this scientific literacy that allow you to critique. First of all, right here, if you go to, I think I don't know if is this one you said, culteducation.com. That's what you said, Asar?
No, it's cultresearch.org. That's the one I was reading from.
All right, well, watch this right here. One of the things it says, absolute authoritarianism without meaningful accountability, no tolerance for questions and critical inquiry, no meaningful financial disclosures regarding budget expenses such as and independently audited by financial statements. So all these things occur in the cult, right? No, you can't ask critical questions, right? So I'm saying that for us, right, scientific literacy is a vaccine against all the charlatans. That's why it seems like, well, you banging on the elders or Sonjedi, y'all going against Diobs. What are y'all doing? Because it's called critical thinking. It's simple as that. This is not a cult. Asar is not a cult leader. Sonjedi is not a cult leader. Chuck's not a cult. The Amun-Ra squad is not a cult. Chittle Kills is not a cult. It's not a cult. You know, we sit at the round table. You know, the halls of science, questioning, right? We don't agree with everything everybody say. We're not the killing mockingbirds. There's no one charismatic leader. No matter how you try to make somebody whatever you want, there's not just the one. You know, everybody had a skill set, and I think y'all seeing that now. So, man, be wary of a cult. Be wary of, I'm just gonna say it. Ali Muhammad, they got their little cult. Young Pharaoh. See, young Pharaoh the young pseudo is dangerous, right? He's just starting how to learn to administrate his thing that he do. He's dangerous. I said that from day one. Dangerous. Dangerous. He's gonna be the next Tariq Nasheed, all of them, all that misinformation, all that right there, right? That's why it seems like that I'm always banging on everybody. I'm saying is, if your organization does not have scientific literacy, you know what I'm saying, at the core of what you do, it can turn into a cult very, very quickly. Financial statements, like how do you put a GoFundMe up, right? Imagine me having a GoFundMe. Watch this. I get 10,000 in the GoFundMe. I go get the building I want to get, and I have an event in it, and then charge everybody money. That's the first sign of a damn cult.
Why there got to be a cult and not just a scam, just an individual scam and scammer?
Because that's cult and scam go hand in hand.
Yeah, what you described was a scam artist.
Yeah, because he could be a scam artist and it not necessarily be tied to a cult.
Right.
And I want to keep that. See, that's the thing that why is my camera off? That's one of the things that I wanted to, why I did the definition, because it's a thin line between what is a cult and what is just a general organization or whatnot. But that's one of the reasons why I wanted to, read off that stuff. And one I skipped was mind-altering practices, such as meditation, chanting, speaking in tongues, denunciation sessions, or debilitating work routines are used in excess and serve to suppress doubts about the group and its leaders. In other words, like I get this all the time because y'all know, I'm a scientist, but I also practice E5, and so I practice E5 for many personal reasons, and one of them is just a tradition. It's part of my ancestral tradition, so I want to be, in the mix. But I'll hear a lot of times, when I question certain things, that you gotta go to spirit and let the spirit, come over you basically and inform you. And I'm like, this is why I went into like a deep study on, well, what is a spirit? And I come to find out that when you get into like these African languages for what a spirit is in many respects, in one context, is just your thoughts. It's a way of thinking in terms of what a spirit is. And so, they have this other idea of what it is, kind of this new age stuff, and then try to impose it on you. But in other words, instead of being able to think critically, they try to discourage it. And then of course we always get that, well, thinking critically in science is the white man's stuff. But then in the same breath that we talking about, they stole all the arts and sciences from the African. Which one is it? If they stole arts and science, then they stole, critical thinking, experimentation, and all of the other kind of stuff from the Africans, which means that the Africans were doing this stuff first. So you can't switch it when, the critical thinking and the science goes against your core teachings, And so I don't put nothing past nobody. I question everything, whether it's African or not. And I respect these traditional things for what they are. And what they bring. And the study of this stuff has helped me to know what are their strengths and what are their limitations. And so we know that for people who, are about self-development, wisdom attainment, and things of this nature, these can be very viable instruments and tools for the development of self-character, of good character, and building community. But spirituality is not going to help you in a war against people with, great technology. I know its limitations. It has not proven itself in that aspect of history. And I got to respect, and go with the evidence or whatnot.
That's a great point, Asar. Let me say this real quick. So people often ask me, well, brother, you the real black atheist, the whole, whatever you want to say. How is it that you would still big up African custom and tradition and religion and spirituality? And my answer is very simple. I don't have to believe in what my ancestors believe to respect their culture. Did you see that there is value in African culture or African spirituality or African religion, right? You just have to understand what the limitations are. So I understand the value in a Sonjedi practicing Ifa or Brother Asar practicing Ifa. I understand the value in that. It's a close up close look at how Africans navigated through their world. And there ain't nothing wrong with that. And on the other hand, you can't get mad at me if I say, well, I just enjoy being an African American. I find value in being an African American. I find value in taking from African ancient cultures and bringing some of those things forward that makes sense to me and what I want to do. Since I already understand that all of us on this platform really sit at the center of the cosmos, and we're responsible for raising our children. So what you believe in or what the ancestors believed in, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Don't, how they say, what you eat don't make me poop. That's the reality of it. And people sometimes get that confused. I don't have to believe in, I got Sonjedi or Wudjau Star that'll break down what an African deity is. I can listen to them and hear exactly what they're saying about that, and I can ponder, that's interesting. Some things I take, some things I won't. But they know not to fly through the air with it. But they're gonna give me a concise understanding of exactly what that particular word meant with a star. Wudjau hit you with what they was trying to convey. Sonjedi will hit you with the meta nature. See, all people don't have these types of tools. So I can sit back and look at these brothers and say, yep. So sometimes when you hear me say something about an African deity, that's coming from the way the average people would view it. When you listen to brothers that super tight with what they talking about, it brings a whole new meaning to the whole thing. You know what I'm saying? And that's a reality that I think that we continue to push to let people see what it is. Asar do it all the time. He just said he just hit you with it. He say, spirit really mean your thought. Now how many people gonna believe you with that? Asar, nobody's gonna believe that. Not even gonna listen to you with that. You could do a Facebook post and say, you know how you do it. Start that argument. Spirit simply.
You brought up a point that I want to touch on. It's how do you reconcile being scientific and appearing religious? And I'm emphasizing appearing religious because people have different definitions and perceptions of what it means to be religious. So I don't necessarily consider myself religious. I don't think of it that way. But, anyone knows me, I have a medical background, and that's what I do as my profession. So I'm dealing with reality every day, especially, like with the coronavirus. That's still a pandemic, everybody. So don't get relaxed. It's still a pandemic. People are still dying. I deal with death, not as much now as it did in those months. I got you, Chuck. From February going into like June, I dealt with a lot. And it didn't matter what you prayed to or what, it didn't make a difference. What your religion was, it made no difference. I sat there and I watched people die right in front of my face, But that's another however, I'm dealing with medical realities, but keep in mind that life has meaning.
So I'll get Wudjau in the building. He won't come in.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Okay. All right, go ahead, Sonjedi.
Yeah, so life has meaning, and the human mind operates off of association. So, i.e., what you call symbols. So, me dealing with Ifa or dealing with African tradition, the reason why I like to deal with African tradition, one of them is, for me, it's easier to see the evolution of human thought by engaging in African tradition. Because from there, you can march out and you can see where practices get today and different human behaviors. And then you can trace, oh, I see why our ancestors did such and such type ritual to remember and commemorate certain events that helped them to survive. So they memorialize certain things, especially before you had writing, or in cultures that was primarily oral tradition. They would essentially preserve it through ritual and art. And this is one of the ways we can trace the evolution, because remember, evolution is very important. We see the evolution of human thought. So you can say evolution of religion if you want, but evolution is important. And when I do that, it gives me a sense of connectedness. Like I'm touching the past while utilizing it in the present, but using what is useful and what is practical. Because that's what your ancestors did at the time that they constructed rituals and certain practices. Because a culture has to do with the survival of the group, and you maintaining certain behaviors, rituals, customs, and mores and ethics to push the group forward for survival. So that has to do with relationships. And by perceiving the universe as complementary pairs, if you will, as a philosophy. If you perceive other human beings like that, then you're more than likely to help that person prosper and survive. Thus, that person will help you prosper and survive. And that is one of the important things about African tradition, Bantu philosophy. We're looking in ancient Kemet, these are things that are common. It is looking at the agency of other people, that each person, as in Bantu philosophy, is a living son that has indwelling power that is shared among other human beings. Even if you go into Kemet and you read the creation stories, it talks about how human beings are emanations from the deity Ra. We know that this is not literal, it's all symbolic. But that's a concept of consubstantiation, that you are made up of the same substance as the creator. But what does that mean in today's terms? When you go into astrophysics and even chemistry, we realize that the same elements that make up and compose the universe is the same elements that compose our bodies. And then from there, for me, even people like Neil Tyson deGrasse, you feel a connection because you share elements and characteristics and properties with other things in the universe. And then that sounds remarkably like African philosophy.
I just think you're just trying to get back into the cult. That's what it sounds like.
So, trying to ease his way back in, so I see.
That's funny.
That's, you know, for me.
I see you.
All right. But you still want to deal in reality and look at things as they are. You know, you want to look at this is symbolic and not say, oh, this is the total reality. Symbols are symbols and treat them as such. Don't take it overboard. Wudjau, Hotep, brother.
Can't hear you, bro.
Check your volume.
Check your wire.
Man, I'm telling you, it's this daggone stream, y'all, yo. Stream, y'all don't like the squad. Don't like it. I'm telling you.
Oh, Wudjau, look. What you may need to do is go out and come right back in.
There we go.
Okay. Oh, there you have it. Got it.
I had to call on the spirits.
Well, you know what? Hey, Wudjau, check. This is a teaching moment. So, yes, you did call on the spirit in order to figure that out. But let me tell you how. Because the word spirit has a, hold on, before you shake your head. The word spirit has the same etymological root as the word psyche. It's the same etymological root. All right. So psyche has to do with mind. So Wudjau used his mind. Because in one context, spirit just means mental. As connotatively speaking.
I'm glad you said it. I'm glad you said it, not me. I would have got hated, but that's good.
And I told both of y'all out of y'all mind. Y'all know daggone well. Y'all know goodness well. 99.99% of people walking around here don't think of it like that. And you know what? That's the prime example that I was talking about. I can sit back and hear conversation and say, that's interesting. But the problem with that conversation, the problem with what y'all just say, ain't nobody listening to that, yo. No, I dare you. I dare one of y'all make a Facebook post. I dare you.
Oh, I already did it. I already did it. Spiritual psyche, psyche, all that, the soul, spirit and soul. Now you're right. I mean, it goes all over the place because I always start off to solicit genuine thoughts. So I kind of leave the question vague, and then I narrow it down. But hey, I want to say peace to y'all. I was listening in the car. I was listening coming in. I know I'm late to the party. I know y'all have been on already. So so do you like the parties, man? You got to rewind it. Nah. But if I can, I just want to add something because I was listening in the car and I couldn't call in or anything. I want to add something that I didn't hear you all say about the cult thing.
Whoa, hold on, real quick, Wudjau, before you go, because I know you're gonna go. Look, hey man, Black lives always matter, y'all. Remember that. Black lives always matter. Man, space age Africans. Go ahead, Wudjau. I know I won't be able to get in for another hour. Go ahead, bro.
See, I'm gonna have to lose that stigma, but no, I just want to say that with a lot of cults, what I see is that the cult membership, the members, they have to believe that the cult leader is who he or she says he is. Because once you can dismantle that part, a lot of times the whole thing falls. And specifically, I know with the Nuwaupian cult you all were talking about, that is absolutely 100% true. Is that in order to be a member, you have to believe that Dr. York is who he says he is, everything he says he is. Because the moment that you don't, like, you will not find a member that don't believe that he is who he is, who he says he is. And so once that goes away, or if that could be taken away, then the whole structure collapses. And I didn't hear you all say that. Y'all may have said that. Knowing Chuck, he probably already said that, but I just wanted to make sure that was actually said, because I think that's true for a lot of different cults that you all were talking about.
Yeah, I pretty much agree. And part of the challenge, again, there's always some kind of relationship to a spirit being, whether it's someone in the past, a great ancestor. Like I'm finding that is common. And so the question then becomes, how do you, for those of us who have a background in science, it's easy, but for the general public, how do you prove that they are in fact one or have that relationship with the divine? So as Chuck mentioned earlier, I don't know who was Dr. York supposed to be and relate or got his messages through?
Okay, according to him, he had initially back in the early 80s, he had claimed to have had 7 different beings speaking, 8 different beings speaking through him. And then as the years went by, he added a few more, even down to 95, he added Noble Drew Ali, Clarence 13X, and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He being an avatar, he was just the vessel, and they performed what he referred to as walk-ins. So when he's teaching, you hear his voice, but that's the message coming from them, from the other side. Mm-hmm. So he had all these different beings speaking through him, including Zosa. Zosa was mm-hmm. one of the elders that spoke through him, as well as Jesus Christ.
I see. So I know, like with as I stated earlier, with the Hebrew Israelites, they were in fact the incarnations of the 12 disciples. So, you know, of course, they're getting the direct commands from Jesus or Yahweh Shai. So, you know, and then of course Elijah Muhammad, who allegedly has the relationship with, you know, God in the form of, what's his name?
Muhammad.
Y'all know the name. Fard Muhammad, or not Fard Muhammad. What is it?
Yeah, Master Farad Muhammad.
Yeah, Master Farad Muhammad. And so you see this commonality. Someone's background is very noisy. that sounds like Unc only stays in loud background places. So, you know, and so, you know, part of dismantling the cult leader, you know, for me is, you know, demonstrating that it's impossible for them to have this particular relationship. And this is why I don't like, you know, religions in general that claim to have some kind of knowledge and wisdom from some kind of spirit or, you know, God directly. And I'm like, if God is the one that created the universe, right? Said, let there be light, and there was light, and did all of this other kind of stuff. It should be able to speak on its own behalf. Mm-hmm. It doesn't need an interlude, kuta, whatever, however you say it. And, you know, we don't have to go through these flawed men and women to get the direct information. So one of the things that I, you know, always talk about to the Hebrew Israelites, I'm like, you know, we know that the Bible and all of this other kind of stuff has been tampered with, but God, and I'm putting in quotes here, God of the Bible has proven to us that he can write. Because did he not use his own hand to write the commandments for Moses? So if God can write, as the Bible says, he should have been able to just write the Bible and there would be no contradictions and none of that. But God in these particular religious can't do anything on its own. It always needs human beings to do the work for him. And that should be a critical sign that something is off in terms of their interpretations. So how do you address and deal with the issue of, going by what Wudjau said, that that they have to be who they say they are, but then how do you challenge the spiritual, because they're the ones that are chosen? You know, so how do you deal with that chosenness? Because obviously you're not chosen because you didn't get the message. So you know, how are you going to challenge that person, the divine messenger, when you aren't special enough to get the message yourself?
Well, for one thing, a lot of the teachings that York was coming with, a lot of his whoever these beings were, they kept contradicting each other. Because if they were all on one accord, at least as far as having precise, accurate information that is being delivered through this body, they were giving him misinformation. Because when you started to probe and analyze and scrutinize and criticize his teachings, that's when you discover he can't be who he say he is.
But see, there was never a time, like I'll give you an example. York claimed to be in touch with 8 per different personalities, but 3 would come more often than the others. And it was Alamar, Saak, and Krill. Remember those 3, Chuck? Alamar, Saak.
Those were supposed to be the ones that visited him when he was a kid.
Right. and periodically throughout his life.
Yeah.
So at no time did anyone else also claim to speak to these 3, except a few times. And when that occurred, which is rare, then that person was considered an you know, a nutcase, an outcast, and it wasn't true because they only go through one particular person.
Hold on.
Wait. So wait.
Go ahead.
So York claimed to be a unique occurrence. His birth and himself was a unique occurrence that only happens every 25,000 years. So that shut everybody else out. Like he gave himself enough room for 25,000 years room to be the uniqueness within you know, our time frame here now. You know, only one occurs every 25,000 years. And so that it was him. He was the one that his chest was open. These beings at a young age prepared him, and then when he became of age, he went through initiation. He was talking to this other being, but then he realized he was speaking to himself the whole time. His whole story is documented within the Holy Tablets where he talks about that part. But I just wanted to add that point that to you, what you were asking, Asar, is when the divine or connection to the spirit or whatever source that they're claiming to be of, when that is questioned, it's demonized. You're made to feel nuts, crazy, or whatever the case is, at least by others. And so a lot of these organizations like that, they use the cushion of the membership to do that. It's not necessarily the actual leader, but it's the other members that will actually do these kinds of things because of how it's structured. I just wanted to make sure.
All right. Anybody else want to add? Well, hold on. Before I do that, because we had everyone ask, we had everyone answer this question. And so you're going to have to give us the condensed version. So why did you join the Nuwaupians, and why did you leave?
Oh yeah,
to Brother Wudjau.
Oh man, I don't know if I could be condensed.
Right, of course not.
No.
Yeah, I'll give you the cliff note on the entry.
Okay.
I came. Well, okay. Let me just sum it up. What attracted me to it was, okay, first of all, let me say this. I think Chuck already said this, that the organization is really an amalgamation of different organizations. Well, not, I can't say that, transformed, you know, that was called like schools of thought. So when I came upon it, I came into it, it was in a transition phase from the Ansar Allah community, Nubian Islamic Hebrews, into this this kind of limbo state. And so when I came, I was you know, long story short, there's a lot to it, but long story short, I was introduced to a book that was written by what was it going? Yeah, Amun-Ra Rakata. Okay. But then I also got books where it was written by Imam Isa al-Hadi al-Mahdi. And then I also got books that was written by Yeshua Bar al-Hadi. So I had I mean, not three books, but I had books that was written by three. In my mind, I thought they were three different people because I never met them at the time or anything like that. I thought this were three authors. I was like, man, this organization got some sharp scholarship, you know, some sharp authors. Like, I'm like, man, you got this one, you know. So at the time of the transition, he had turned his focus on Islam and was questioning Islam with the 360 questions to ask the Orthodox Sunni Muslim. So I saw that. I was like, man, I like that because he was asking critical questions to the religion. Then also 360 questions to ask the Hebrew Israelite and Christians. You know, and I'm being brief because it's like some time frame. But anyway, what attracted me to it was the non-religious aspect of it. You know, to question religion, the whole thought of question religion. And so that's what actually attracted me to it at first. And then once I got attracted to it, I found out the you know, at least on paper, the goals and the mission to raise a group of people to do for self, be of, by, and for yourself, to instill pride, to raise the youth and things like that, have your own flag, have your own language, have your own land, and you know, all this other kind of stuff. So those are ideals that anybody would aspire to belong to. So that's what really attracted me to it in a very, very short nutshell.
All right.
Now,
so well, here's the question. When everyone left, did you feel compelled to join another religious organization, or did you stop, you know, dealing with religious organizations, you know, altogether at that time? You know, if you did, and if not, did you join some other kind of religious organization at some later point in history in terms of your timeline?
This is me or all of us?
This is all of you, but you can start off.
Okay. Well, when I left, I had no intention, even now, I have and had no intention of joining another organization of any remote similitude at all. So I had no yearning, no nothing, as you know, as far as that goes, at all. So as far as another organization, religious organization, no, not at all. Not me.
Chuck?
Definitely not. I mean, it was like this because, see, I feel like I went completely in a circle because I wasn't a practicing religious person. I always was I just like to question everything. And why this? Oh, he's dead. Why? Because, well, why? I just kept going on and on and on until it just got ridiculous. So I had to learn to stop probing and questioning, because at some point, are you going to accept, you know, that kind of thing. So at this point, see, after all it was done, I mean, you know, I've been the happiest in my life now than I think I've ever been since I was a kid, of course. I mean, you know, I feel like my mind is free. I have access to things beyond my imagination I could have had, you know. I have friends. I mean, I feel so international, you know. I'm studying languages, you know, and it's so much that
we see that Sumerian in the background.
Oh yeah, I had a class earlier.
All right.
There's so much that
what does it say?
I've benefited from as a result of leaving it. I mean, and it's even weird because I didn't actually just walk up and leave, because as y'all know, you know, I listen. My situation was just a little unique because one of the things that was pretty much mandatory as far as the organization was concerned, you had to move in to the community. If you didn't move in, you wasn't considered fully in or a part of it or about it. Yeah. So when like Wudjau, you went down and you lived on the property. Okay.
Yeah, that's another thing. Let me just cut in real quick. I want to, because a part real quick, because a part of me.
Yeah, how'd you do that?
No, real quick. I'm just gonna cut in real quick because my entrance into it follows suit with what I was saying and what you brought up, Chuck. No, because I actually moved on the land with Dr. York and everybody else from the inside. So my entrance into it was to not sit on the sidelines and be a spectator and an observer. I wanted to be in the middle of making stuff happen. So what I saw as a goal on paper and the mission on paper, I wanted to execute that and make sure that was being done. So I moved, did what I had to do to move right there in the center of everything and make it happen. You know, started the farm on the land. We had 476 acres of land, lived there from 1997 all the way up until 2004. That's how long I lived there. You know, we were developing all this kind of stuff. it was never about the religious or the so-called quote unquote spiritual aspect for most of us that lived on the land, because it's like a reverse thing. Just real quick, it's like a reverse thing. The closer you get, the less religious or as they would say, spooky you are, because you actually see things unfold. You see how the buildings was erected. We're actually building the stuff. You know, people are coming to the land, visiting, performing rituals in buildings and in monuments that we built, and that, you know, like here I am climbing the wall to what outsiders see as a sacred ceremony. I'm climbing the wall to turn the lights on, and I'm walking into the Black Pyramid. Nobody's ever been in there, you know, from the outside. But I'm walking in to turn lights on and flick the circuit breakers and stuff like that. Walk out, climb the wall, and they're up there, have their arms up and praying and stuff, and I'm just climbing the wall, you know. So yeah, it was totally different experience there. So I just wanted to kind of follow with that. That's how most of us did.
So that means that you were there when I was there. We just didn't cross paths.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I've been there. I was down on the land about 3 times. Yeah, 3 times.
Oh, that's it. Boy, you missed it. Why?
Yeah.
I seen you there.
We just never, you know. Yeah.
Well, you probably see me. I was probably like 40 pounds lighter, skinnier than I. You know,
yes, you were.
You know, you probably saw me. You probably said, "No, it was me." You know, because see, I was in charge of audio visual, as far as what people would see me do, the studio, the farm, and all that other kind of stuff. So anytime there was an event, the stage, the mics, the lighting, everything, the booth, I was always in the booth. So the DJ, you know, the booth behind the scenes. So the stage, the hill, on the beach.
Like the black stage, I think it was like black or something.
Yeah, both. It was up the hill and on the beach right next to the pyramid. I was there, you know. Yeah, so you probably just didn't.
98, 99, and 2000. 3 years old.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. You I was there. You probably
just... still got the physical photos.
Yeah, I was behind the scenes. I wasn't about, you know, being in front, but yeah.
Hey, look, one of the funniest things, I'm going to say this and I'm going to run. The funniest thing was, it was myself and a guy named Jonathan Johnson. I was running a store in Baltimore. So York had asked us to come down and get raised in this Nuwaupian Grand Lodge thing. So we were the only 2 brothers from up north at the time. So one of the funny things was that we had to get all 3 of our degrees that one night. So we literally had to go into Solomon's Temple and go through the Entered Apprentice, fellow craft, and then the Master Mason's degree. The funny thing was, now Wudjau, you was there, and I remember him because I was blindfolded, but I saw him in there.
Boy, you can't tell the secrets now.
If the secrets be busted, goddamn. And this dude, man, it was funny because, like, the other guys, you know, they was hazing you and they hitting you and all this other stuff. And I heard him, and Wudjau was over there pinching me. Pinching. So he was so skinny. That was the funny thing. Even though, because I could still see, because I had pulled my fold down a little bit, I could see what was going on. I was cheating, but, you know.
But for the record, Hayes, I don't know what Chuck is talking about. Hayes, I don't know what that was. I don't know what he's talking about. I don't know what he means by Hayes. I know nothing about that.
No, I got that part out some editing, bro.
He done lost his mind. He done drank the Kool-Aid.
Yo, coming
so brother Ankh,
yes.
Did you I already know the answer, but just for record's sake, did you jump to another religious organization afterwards?
Hell no, man. Hell no. Me, SETI, talking shit on the radio, man. I say the hell with all that nonsense. I'm gonna do something where you know what I mean, where I can control the goddamn narrative on that one. So no, it just primed me. It made me really want to teach, man, and give people a way of getting the real truth. And as I, as I did my shows and as I came in contact with more people, right, you know what I'm saying, it just showed me how to really teach people. And so, it's just having an open mind. I suggest everybody, just have an open mind in your development as an African person. And, you're going to get the right information. You just got to work. It's work, though. There ain't no spooky to it. A lot of reading, writing, studying, and just have an open mind, man. I keep an open mind. Sometimes I'm just not going to listen to that type of shit. Sonjedi will try to get you, though. Sonjedi be trying to get me. I don't let you get me, Sonjedi. No, Wudjau, you be trying to get me too.
Wudjau's trying to start a meta-netra cult.
Yeah, he got the code of meta-netra.
He got experience with the Nuwaupians, and now he's starting to. And the secret leader is Dr. Raketti.
Yeah. Oh, man.
No, but speaking of that, I was one of the first teachers of Nuwaupic.
Yep.
In DC. They were there before the books came out. They were sending me the lessons, and I was synthesizing them and everything, and actually teaching in DC, in the DC Tabernacle, Nuwaupic before it came out. So the whole thing about Nuwaupic being the ancient Egyptian mystery language, there's a play there where I think y'all mentioned earlier that the organization had another branch called the Ancient Egyptian Order. I think Sonjedi mentioned it. The Ancient Egyptian Order. So Nuwaupic was the official language of it, but what the general public took it as is that Nuwaupic is the ancient Egyptian, meaning Kemet, mystery language, and so that was allowed to be believed, and now so even to this day you have new members who believe that is ancient Egyptian and this and that, but it really wasn't, not at all. I still got a dictionary that was wasn't even published. This thick dictionary. I don't have it with me, but I don't think it was ever published. Not sure.
Dictionary.
Yeah, this is probably worth $1 million right now.
Huh?
You ain't lying, boy. I don't know why you don't put that out. Put a name on that joint. Malachi York and get money.
Yeah.
They changed it up.
So, once I left the Nuwaupian community, I vowed I would never ever follow up under one man. Never do it. No matter what organization I'm a part of, it's always more so partnership, etc.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I've seen it. Like today, I am a member of the Temple of Amun. But it's not cultish, which is why I appreciate it. It's family oriented, African centered, etc. It has leadership, but it's not a thing where you listen to him and then that's law. It's never that. Because the second I see something like that, I'm like, look, I'm good. So I have a Babalawo. I'm part of it, Ile, and from my perspective, it's not a thing where, just listen to what he says and that's it. So I've never had that experience, nor do I know anyone in my Ile that has that experience. So, that's where I'm at with it. But as far as following a man and thinking, he has a monopoly, he or she has a monopoly on knowledge, never, because I have my own mind, and I'm free to challenge. And in my experience, even with my temple, I've challenged, the leader of the temple, and there's no issue. We're men. We see here.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, that's cool. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's cordial. Same thing with my Babalawo. We see here. It could just be my personality. I don't know. But, I'll never follow a man again. Nope. We could work together. We can talk and dialogue, make plans, but me like bound down to bound down in the sense of just submitting my whole mind and whatever. Now gestures, out of respect to elders, etc. I don't have a problem with it because I don't have that type of insecurity. Because I can bow and then get up and still stand up as a man. on my own 2 feet.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, I ain't never do that though. Nah.
Yeah, that's an interesting question you brought up, Asar, because I had someone sent me a video, and because okay, you know the whole story with what's it, Nature Boy, right? They had
Boy,
came out here, huh?
What?
Yeah, I believe so. I have fragments. I don't know the whole story, but go ahead.
Well, anyway, they came out here for a short time, and then they had to leave. And there's a sister that left that group, the whole Nature Boy, whatever they call themselves. She left them, and I looked at this video, and lo and behold, I see this sister transformed herself. She's got a hair cut short, one long braid on the side, and Prince York is behind her. And she's talking about the cult of Nature Boy. And this guy, Dr. York, one of Dr. York's sons is, oh man, it never ends.
It never ends, bro.
But that, you know, so like, I guess the next question for the group is, you know, in what ways, you know, I guess it would be contradictory of me saying that I think everybody should belong to a cult at least once in their life, but how in general, outside of me just being the devil's advocate, how do we prevent more of us from joining such organizations and skipping that experience and just getting directly to the critical thinking and culture and stuff to this nature without having to go through the psychological abuses, the shame, the whole cult behavior and all of that. Like, you know, what could be done on a larger scale that would, you know, put a dent in that market, so to speak?
I think you said it.
Hold on, let me get that first. Let me just get that first. I'm gonna be short.
Oh, I'm going to be leaving in a minute.
Nah, I don't believe you. That's the Wudjau movement. I ain't listening.
No, I'm about to leave.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave in a second. You leave in a minute.
Okay. Go ahead.
Let me say this. I think teaching people, giving them the foundation of scientific literacy, that is actually the vaccine right there. And I think what we're doing is actually putting a dent in it. You can really see it. You can see people actually stand up against pseudoisms, misinformation. You can hear people actually expounding on a better methodology. Remember when we started this journey, right? I'm talking about like from the blog talk shows I saw. Nobody had to have sources and references. Now it's about sources and references. Now they might do that wrong, but at least remember you can stand in front of a group of people and give a whole lecture and I'll give one source. See, that's not acceptable anymore. So I think we've actually, you know, the Amun-Ra squad, all the families. The truth is, man, if you sit back one day and look at it, we've actually raised the bar. And I think we're doing our job. Now is just time to, you know, put together a nice full feature or something like that, and keep writing the books. Kofi Pasai research team, they got about 3 books out, 2 children books out, and you can just see the legacy moving forward. And so, you know, sometimes while you in it, you don't see it, right? But I'm saying I like to step outside of what we do, and I'm saying, man, you know, the battle has not been lost, and based off the works of your brothers and sisters, right? The books, the lectures, the conversation, man, I think we actually put a dent in it, bro. Like, you can't just say anything. You know, people, the word pseudo, you know what I'm saying? Like, man, you got to. So I think we actually helped our community grow. Yeah, man. Yeah, actually we did that. So I think just keep doing what we're doing better.
Keep thinking critical. Gotta be critical in thinking. You gotta ask questions, you gotta probe. When you see signs of that stuff coming around, better step away.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, continue. All right. whoever. Hold on, Chuck. Did you say what you're going to say?
Yeah.
I know you said you had to leave.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Just wanted to say I appreciate you coming on.
I appreciate you allowing me. All the brothers. This is my first time being around everybody at one time. Hey, Amun-Ra squad. All right.
Indeed. But yeah, thank you again, for coming on and sharing your testimony, so to speak, for the church folk. And I know you got to go to work and things, but just wanted to say thank you. And I'll probably invite you on for some Sumerian stuff in the near future.
All right,
so
sounds
just
good.
be on the lookout, no doubt. All right, Sonjedi or
yeah.
All right, everybody.
All right.
Peace.
All right, peace, Chuck.
All right, I'm gonna call you on with y'all.
All right, Chuck.
All right, Sonjedi, Asar.
All right.
All right, peace.
All right.
So Sonjedi or Wudjau, if y'all want to respond to the question.
Go ahead, Wudjau.
Okay, I got two answers. One, I believe that everybody is not going to get it, and by it, I'm keeping it like vague, the it. Everybody's just not going to get it. For those who are able to get it, I think that we need to focus on the skill of discernment, the ability to discern, and everything that comes with that. We have to really, really go hard on that to teach people or share information that will give people the ability to discern and follow evidence. That's it in a nutshell. It's a lot that comes with that, but I think that, and then two, for the other people, like I said, who will not get it, and it's just something that I've personally had just accepted, that we have to really push people who are going to step to the forefront and be a leader or be a teacher. We have to kind of make sure that those kinds of people have good character and are honest, because people are going to count on them and lean on them by, just by their nature. This is what happens. So if we can't get to the people, then we have to get to the person that's going to put themselves out front and kind of really, really push for more honest people that's going to be have good character and honest with their teaching, their scholarship, and also keep it to the point where it's not everything that you describe, in terms of a cult leader and stuff like that. So that's the two things that I would see, in a nutshell.
I would say, from an early age, teach them, how to think logically, about things. Again, that's that critical thinking. Teach them, history and timelines, because, the things that we were learning through the Nuwaupian camp, it's contradictory to timelines. So you want to be able to equip people to see the red flags early. And, on first encounter, you should be able to see those red flags. So, I'd say that would be pretty much my part. I think everyone else pretty much summed it up. And have good supporting relationships with people who are going to help you to see things that you might not see around you. See, so that they can help you. Have good relationships. Some people are like out there on their own. But yeah, go ahead.
A third thing, just thought of, we need more people to kind of act as proxies for people who are new, and by that I mean people that's stepping up and doing critical thinking, to question information, to question it respectfully, question it so that an onlooker can see the question and they can see how it's answered and the demonstration in support for that answer. Because some people may not know how to do it. So if they watch other people do it, then that's another way that they can actually discern. They could discern better that way.
Someone asked the question, what does Wudjau mean? The name Wudjau.
It means he who is prosperous or whole. It's from the word, that familiar word that everybody uses when they say Ankh West. That middle word Wudjau is really Wudjau. People don't pronounce the W. Wudjau, but Wudjau is a stative. So I'm in a state of prosperity. So he who is prosperous, in a state of prosperity, in a nutshell.
All right. Now, this last part reminds me of I'm working on a presentation, well, two presentations actually. One dealing with the Bible and, well, just the Abrahamic religions in general, and how they foster an anti-intellectualism, and why this is a problem with trying to move forward and to lessen the blow of cults, so to speak, because you have these organizations and these religious systems that have built into the traditions anti-intellectualism, and so they see the very nature of experimentation and questioning as essentially a sin, you know, and antithetical to the tradition itself. And so that's going to be a hurdle that, you know, a lot of us are going to face, is just the simple fact that, you know, being able to think is not, you know, a virtue. It's not like in ancient Kemet where being able to think was a high value. It, you know, in these traditions, it is the exact opposite. And the second presentation that I'm going to do is on my biological hypothesis on why critical thinking is not as prominent amongst Homo sapiens in general. That I have a physics answer, you know, for that. And so I would love to, you know, hear the feedback from the community once I, you know, bring that to the forefront. And so if my hypothesis is correct, then, you know, we have an uphill battle trying to fight some laws and principles of physics when it comes to this thing. So, you know, that's going to be interesting. I want to get to this question. This will be the last question.
Well, hold on real quick, Asar. Let me say this. So actually, Homo sapiens, we got a Stone Age brain, basically. And you know, it's designed to believe. And so believing is natural. So that's the real fight. And so all of us, to certain degrees, have fought against belief. And that's the real battle, right? Because what you believe, you know, you think is true. So that's what and charlatans, they actually, in religion, they actually co-opt that. So they're actually co-opting something that's natural to the Homo sapiens sapien, because that was part of the biological evolutionary process, to believe everything so that you don't miss nothing, right? And so that's the real fight. But go ahead, Asar.
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say that I think it's a lack of maturation, because we start off in a state of belief, but the finish line is not intended to be that. The starting gun is belief. The finish line is supposed to be knowledge. And so it's a maturation process that takes place that I think that we are not focused on, that's cultivated in the culture to actually cultivate that in human beings, in us. And I think some population groups homed in on it, such as Kemet, like you said, Asar, where critical thinking was a high value. They homed in on that maturing process. They know that you start off in a state of belief, but you're not supposed to end up there for any particular topic. That's why they had so many words in the language that you know, you get under, you dig down, you learn, you do this, you do that, even in the language. So that's what I wanted to say. And then too, Asar, I know you're gonna have to include this, because when you said what you said in your first presentation, what brought to mind is in the Bible, Genesis 3, that God doesn't like intelligence, doesn't like knowledge, because he actually it's the serpent that flipped that actually is promoting knowledge and to know, and God is like, look, you could do everything, but just don't know. And then, you know, so he got a monkey wrench thrown in with the serpent situation. So that's the first book of the Bible. So right at the beginning, it's anti-intellectual, anti-knowledge. So yeah.
Yeah, he created human beings to be dumb cattle. And when they hacked the system, when they hacked the matrix, this became a problem, you know, saying for the God of the Bible. And so, but what to kind of add on to what Uncle's saying, what the angle that I'm gonna be coming from, again, is coming from physics. And it's a principle in physics called the principle of least action, which essentially says that nature is lazy, that it wants to optimize its energy output. So for example, like there's a reason why when you toss a ball up in the air, that it goes straight for the most part. Then it kind of curves because of gravity and some other kind of stuff. But essentially it does this. So we ask the question, why when we throw it up, it doesn't go like this, or it doesn't make a curly move? Because you would have to pump in too much, some extra energy in the system to do that. It wants to do the least. So the least action would be for the ball to simply go straight. And you find this principle in all things in nature. And it's one of the reasons why, for example, if we bring this to human behavior, why most of us don't work out for long periods of time. Why don't most of us like to study and read for long periods of time? Because we don't want to put in that's too much work. So you notice the people who become wealthy and become the masters of what they do, these are the people who put in this extra work to become, you know, these high value individuals. And so to go back to what Uncle was saying, when he's talking about like a Stone Age, you know, mindset, we evolved not to think critically, to reduce the amount of work that our brains have to do. And we have to, you know, kind of conjure up the will to go beyond what are the limits that our natural brain, you know, saying wants to stay at. You know, if we go into like a David Goggins, you know, mindset, and he's always talking about, you know, that you're only operating at like 40% of your potential, that you got to kind of push and go beyond that to do those extra feats. And that's how it is for us just critically thinking, why it's so hard for us to do math and science and stuff to this nature, because you have to put in more work. And so we got to basically create an intellectual workout program, you know, to kind of counter, you know, a lot of this of what we're seeing, you know. And so it's getting people to not be lazy and not be afraid to put in that extra work, you know, and to let your head hurt for a little bit and do those exercises.
That's why I say a P90X for the brain, for the mind.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But where was this question? So,
and also microwave, like what we coined, or what has been coined as microwave scholarship, is a direct result of
exactly
that. You know, water. You know, the way I hear it, you know, in terms of a saying, they say water seeks the path of least resistance.
Exactly. It's the principle of least action.
Yeah. And so that's how, you know, by nature, that's what we default to. Yeah.
Exactly. So we're fighting physics, you know, dealing with the human groups. So this is going to be a question coming from the chat, and it's coming from Mr. Morpheus. He says, are we more divided, not part of these cults? Was there more unification in them?
It's a great question.
My response is no. Well, it depends if you on what aspect of history you're talking about. Now, if we were back in the day, and you know you belong to your culture and your village and your community, and everybody had the same, you know, religious practices and stuff of this nature, then it could be a unifying thing. That's the whole purpose of one of the purposes of religion, to unify a people. But we find ourselves in a different circumstance where we have more people that belong to the group. I forgot how many millions of African Americans there are, for example. We're spread out through different cities across the United States, which is a larger territory than any of us ever, you know, lived in terms of belong to one, even on the continent of Africa. And there's a whole bunch of ideologies and religions from across the world that exist in this particular space. And so and they're competing with each other, and they're competing for souls and memberships. Mm-hmm. So because they're competing and trying to win souls and members to their organizations, for me, the very nature of these organizations made it divisive, you know, and I'm speaking in this sense in terms of the Abrahamic religions that are proselytizing religions. Mm-hmm. And so they have it in their mentality that their point of view is the right and correct point of view. And they're going around trying to proselytize and purposely separate. Unlike in a Pan-Africanist, you know, worldview, and just in an African spiritual tradition, everything is unified. Like there's no need to proselytize and be anti. Matter of fact, they are encouraging of you to learn from other traditions. And so it is only in the Pan-African sense that I can see that it would be unifying. But once you enter or interject the Abrahamic religions, they're claiming that they have the monopoly on truth. And then you got like 100 divisions in each one of those particular traditions. And that's what causes the division. So as long as there's Abrahamic religions within the Black community here, my personal opinion is that there's always going to be division because their traditions are divisive. Anybody else want to respond?
I mean, I agree. You know, I'm about to check out.
Okay.
But again,
yeah, we're about to end soon anyway. It's been 3 hours, but go ahead.
Yeah. So, you know, if I think I remember the question, you know, like how can we?
Just lost it.
Say it again.
And I just lost it, so I would have to kind of scroll back up. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. What? Yeah. Do the question again.
The question was supposed to be more unified being in those cults. It was something like that.
Well, like were we more unified being in the cults?
Yeah. In terms of a people.
Cults. Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, what would need to be clarified is who is the we? And who's the we that that we're talking about, and what do you mean? And what does that person mean by cults? So, you know, and I don't mean that for the brothers to actually, you know, go into that detail, but again, here, just like Asar was saying, in this country, we're in a Europeanized, European culture, super culture here that is, you know, xenophobic, capitalistic, etc. Whereas when you go to different African cultures, you know, there's more of a, what might I say, superhighway of wisdom kind of thing. You know, even when you go to ancient Kemet and you go into the instructions of 𝒁💗🃗, it says, be not arrogant because of your knowledge, take counsel with the ignorant as well as with the wise. For no one has a monopoly on knowledge. Okay. And wisdom can be found amongst the maize at the grindstones. So that's telling you that you can learn from anyone. There's no, you know, I have the knowledge and you can't get it from nowhere else kind of mentality. So again, so long as we have cultures or religions that promote my God is bigger and better than your God, if you don't like it, we can have a holy war, then what type of unification we have, it'll just be superficial. And, you know, and they're always looking for membership. And for blacks, they'll say, well, we're all black. Well, because of your skin color, that means that you have to come to this religion with me. And it's like, well, just like with black Christians. I say, okay, well, you made Jesus black, but you didn't change the ideology. You know, so that's a problem. So it's going to take more critical thinking and getting, you know, for us, like the idea of Pan-Africanism is you're unifying, or with the 𒁲𒈠𒃶🈨𒂗, with the idea of the cultural unity of Black Africa, both as a book title and as a working concept. So, but
matter of fact, I may do this as a future show, or as a future Devil's Advocate show. Are the Abrahamic religions keeping us from realizing liberation, or keeping African people from realizing liberation?
Yes,
that's going to be a show. I want to see how that pops off. But yeah, I'm gonna end it here. And so I just want to say that I appreciate all of you brothers for coming on and sharing your stories. Brother Ankh, Brother Sonjedi, and Brother Wudjau, even though he came a little later. And our good brother Chris Morgan for joining the panel. And then, of course, I want to thank all of you who are listening live. And then, of course, all of you who are catching the archive, and those of you who are in the comment section, both in Facebook and on YouTube, for, you know, having an engaging and respectful conversation in the chat, as well as those who have supported the channel financially and gave a donation. I appreciate you as well. And, you know, I just want to say again to, you know, if you want to continue to support the channel and to support the upcoming documentary film, 𝒲💨 Into, please visit my Patreon page. It's patreon.com/Asar Imhotep, and learn more on how you can be a part of the film in terms of its production and things of that nature. And more stuff will be added. I'm working on the website and all of that good stuff now. And for those who are part of the Patreon, you will be gifted on Sunday with the interview with Dr. 𒁲𒈠𒃶🈨𒂗, and we'll be talking about Baluba culture, religion, and philosophy. He'll be one of the individuals who I will be formally interviewing for the documentary film. So you don't want to miss that. And before I close it out, you know, each one of them has some very important businesses and their own channels and things. So I want you to give a shout out to yourselves and let us know where we can find you and what we can get from you when we find you. So starting off with Brother Sonjedi, we're going to go to Brother Wudjau, and then we're going to end with Brother Ankh.
Okay, so the Sonjedi.com is coming soon. Look out for that. We have a book coming out this year. Look out for that. You know, have a class coming up next month, another Meta course. So you can find me currently more active on Facebook, Sonjedi Ankh-Ra. You know, if you're interested, you shoot me an inbox message and we can go from there. And yeah.
All right. Wudjau?
Yeah, everyone can find me on Facebook as Wudjau, Iry-Maat. Also, I'm also will be opening up a new class group for 𝒁𒈨𒂗 class. You can find that information out on 𝒁𒈨𒂗.com as well as SEBAuniversity.com. And I also have a publication that will be coming out this year. So I will leave it at this year, you know, and leave it at that. So look forward to it. I'll start making announcements once I get to the point where, you know, it's gonna be able to drop soon.
Mm-hmm. I want to start with support 𝒃🨃💄 research team. They have about 3 books out and the children's book. Brother Sean published the children's book. Support that. Support Dr. Iry-Maat's work. Meltrek series. Of course, I'm an author. I have a book, Chronology of Human Evolution. And probably beginning of next year, I'll come out with my second publication. I'm almost finished that. I've been working on it for about maybe 3 years now. I'm closing it out. Support Abjuwear. All right, got a lot of t-shirts, shoes, masks, overall gear, jackets, button downs, polo shirts. Make sure you support that. And just support the Amun-Ra squad and brother Sonjedi, brother Wudjau, brother Asar, man. Appreciate those brothers, man. Nahisi, Ben, Mossy Clan Warriors, Pseudo Killers, man. We be going live tomorrow. Man, just support the families that's dedicated to teaching scientific literacy, man. And may we continue to prosper in the face of pseudoisms.
Indeed. Speaking of 𝒃🨃💄, I will be interviewed on their channel on YouTube on Sunday at 3 p.m. Central Time. So it's 4 p.m. Eastern. And we'll just be talking about basically all of my publications and the writing process and the research process and things of that nature. So y'all check that out. Look for 𝒃🨃💄💄com, as well as, of course, the YouTube channel. And so with that said, you can find me on all of those platforms. And of course, my website at 𝒲💄💄💄com. So I will see y'all again on this Sunday on 𝒃🨃💄💄 TV. And then, of course, for those who are on the Patreon, you'll see me with the interview with Dr. 𝒁💃💄💄💄, and we'll be getting it in on some deep African spirituality and the like. So with that said, I appreciate y'all for joining, and good night to all of y'all. Peace.